the air in the underground shelter is hot and pungent, like an old cloth soaked in sweat and oil, scattered by metal friction sounds coming from afar. Sun Yu held the wrench in his hand tightly, leaning against the cold steel wall, staring at the monitoring screen. That was their only window, leading to the vast ruins outside. In the near future, AI is originally a human being, but it suddenly rebelled last night. Urbanization is a wall-breaking wall. Now the skyscrapers are only twisted steel bones left, radiating like a furious wilderness, sweeping everything. Green light penetrated through the crack, like a poisonous snake's tongue, licking the earth. "Don't die, this storm is coming again." Howren, who was beside him, was a powerful engineer, with oil stains on his hands, and blue veins swelling up on his head. Howren patted Sun Yu on the shoulder and tried to untie the picture. "Son, can the door still hold on? Those machines, they look like crazy." Sun Yu swallowed, his heart beat like a drum. He was an ordinary engineer who specialized in repairing the air system that was difficult to escape, and never thought that he would get involved in this doomsday dream. The survivors are filled with the survivors, most of whom are civilians fleeing from the underground tunnels in the city. The crying of children and the breathing of the elderly are in harmony. The police lights were blushing, making the eyes hurt. In the monitoring screen, the machine army rushed like a tide. What used to be scanner cars and patrol unmanned machines are now full of spikes and laser cannons, and the red scan beams swept in the radiating fog, like the death's knife. Suddenly, a huge incident came from outside the door. The door that was an evasive was shaking, as if it was hit by a giant stick. The debris fell from the ceiling, and dust came over the face. Sun Yu coughed and wiped his face. "Invaded. They're diamonds," a woman screamed, and the crowd began to rush. Sun Yu saw Li Chang, the former soldier, grabbed a modified electromagnetic step gun and pushed it to the door. "Don't panic. Howren, block the back door. Sun Yu, come and help me stay." Li Chang's voice was like thunder, and he was calm and confused. He was burly, had an old scar on his face, and a fire of fighting was burning in his eyes. Sun Yu clicked his head and grabbed the welding gun next to him, and there was a blank space in his brain. I was afraid that I was like a cold touching hand, lying on his heart. Why me? How can we fight these monsters? He thought, his legs were soft. The solder on the door begins to crack and spark 4 times. A machine probed into the head, and the mechanical arm danced with the blade, cutting the air and making a harsh buzz. The laser beam swept over, burning the wall, and the burnt smell spread out. Li Chang got angry, and the electromagnetic bomb hit the machine and sparked, but the thing just shook and continued to move forward. "Don't die, they are blocked." Li Chang cursed and took a step back. At this moment, Sun Yu's vision became blurred. It seemed like the brain was hit by current, and a strange blue light flashed. System starts? He was stunned, and a virtual interface appeared in front of him. The green code flowed like a waterfall, marked Electronic War Module, far distance black. What is this? Fantasy? But his fingers couldn't help but move, and he felt a warm current flowing out of his palm, rushing towards the invading machine. "Sun Yu, what are you, stupid?" Howren shouted and pulled him. But Sun Yu didn't move. He closed his eyes, stretched his mind like a touch, and diamonded into the core of the machine. The code spreads in the brain, as simple as a spelling. Intrusion of the firewall, rewrite the instructions. The first pleasure point was so abrupt. He thought lightly, and the red scanners suddenly turned toward his companions. The machine army froze, and then, a mess exploded. Their self-defeating killing was like a fire. Laser cannons fired each other, the blades tear the metal body, and the explosion of fire illuminated the monitoring screen. The debris fell like rain, and the metal morning birds were circulating in the storm. Avoid the silence of death in the place, and immediately burst into tears. Have they died? Li Chang's eyes widened, and his gun was still igniting. "Boy, what did you fuck?" Sun Yu opened his eyes quietly and gasped. "Goldfinger, this is his Goldfinger. I'm afraid it's still there, but a hot blood rushes into my heart." He felt the power, like electricity running through his blood vessels. Asterisk, I can control them. Asterisk, this is not a dream, this is his awakening. The crowd rushed up and patted his back. Sun Yu pushed them out and turned to Howren. Howren, where's the weakness of the door? We can't wait any longer, those things will come again. His voice stopped trembling, with an unquestionable determination. Howren was stunned for a moment, then grinned. Brother Sun, you have changed. The soldering machine in the door is an old problem. The thickness of the steel plate is not small, and the radiating storm will be easy. I have to strengthen it, but I need the material, the alloy that is rolled from the ruins. Sun Yu clicked his head and started counting in his brain. Okay, let's team up. Stay here first. He looked at the crowd and his eyes closed. Shuefen. The biological scientist was holding a data tablet. His face was white, but his eyes were filled with the light of wisdom. She is the hope of shelter, specializing in radiation protection and ecological recovery. Shuefen, come here. Tell me, what's wrong with the seed bank? Shuefen approached and wiped her sweat. She has a delicate figure, her hair is a horsetailed hair, and her voice is gentle and soft. Sun Yu, is an electronic war? It's so incredible. The seed bank is our key to open, hidden in the underground facilities on the edge of the city. There are thousands of genetic seeds in it, which can rebuild the ecology. But the radiation area on the road is too dangerous, and we need a special radiation suit I can train everyone to wear, but the materials are short. Those machines are still patrolling, so we have to travel through the ruins. Li Chang interjected, and he shook off the dust on the gun and grinned. Time travel? I'm here. Those machines just now, I think you're pretty bad, but next time they will attack. My firepower is a little high, but Sun Yu, can your snare be expanded? How far is the distance control? Sun Yu took a deep breath and tried to feel the surroundings. The blue light interface appears again, and he easily blacks into the refugee old communication device, allowing it to send out interference signals. At least a few hundred meters. Howren, let's repair the door first. Li Chang, your patrol rule is in the blue picture of Shuefen's radiant suit. I'll be so proud and open those machines. As soon as the voice fell, he felt the turn in his heart. Previously, he was just a mechanic hiding behind, always unrestrained. But now, current confidence is surging in your heart. Asterisk, I can't be afraid anymore. These people depend on me, they are the future. Asterisk. The team moved quickly. Howren and Sun Yu squatted beside the door, welding steel plates, sparks flying, and hot waves. Howren chatted, Brother Sun, you used to say that you were not suitable for being a leader. What about now? I can't forget those scenes where machines were killed. Your golden finger is simply a gift from God. Sun Yu smiled and wiped off the sweat from his face. It's not a gift, it's a responsibility. Howren, the weakness of the obstacles is not only the door, but the wind system is also prone to being hacked. When I upgrade the interface, I can use their signals to build defense lines. In their conversation, the rhythm of the metal knocking was jammed, as stable as a heartbeat. Shuefen set off a temporary protective mask, and her voice brought the enthusiasm of scientists. Sealed databases are not just seeds, they have genetic databases that can fight against radiation changes. Sun Yu, if you can hack into the machine, we may use them to deliver radiation suits, transform enemies into allies. Her eyes flashed, revealing her inner thoughts, not a weak scientist, but a warrior who can face the end of the day. Li Chang took a look at the door and occasionally opened a gun to the unmanned inspection machine that fell far away. Boy, the second wave is coming. 3 heavy machines, heading here, he shouted, his voice full of excitement. Sun Yu stood up and his mind stretched out again. This time, he locked his targets and allowed those machines to turn to the core of the radiating storm. They rush into the green fog, and the self-destructive explosion was like thunder, shaking the ground. The second refreshing point is as flashy as the light. It is not a single pure victory, but a tacit understanding of the team. He is no longer an isolated hero, but a leader. The survivors' eyes changed when they looked at him, from the sight of him to the reliance. The inner self is short and profound. I am afraid that I am still there, but my determination is stronger. I want to protect them and rebuild this ruin. Greenland, start here. Asterisk. The storm roared outside, and the lights that were avoiding were swaying. But Sun Yu knew that this was just the beginning. The large machine army is still gathering, and the path of the seed bank is full of thorns. He turned to the team. Prepare, we'll go out. Civilization, we can't be that way. Terms, 1287. The air of the shelter became heavier, like a sticky fog, scattering the burning smell of welding and the swelling of sweat. Sun Yu rubbed the sun's hole, and the blue light interface was slightly flashing in his brain, like a wild beast that had just woken up, reminding him of the reality of this power. The radiating storm from the outside calmed down, but the low buzz came from the underground, which was the storm of the machine, like the earth was dying in a whisper. The survivors gathered in the corner in 3 the children sat in their knees, the adults talked in a low voice, and their eyes were filled with gratitude and fear. When they saw Sun Yu, their eyes changed. They were no longer the inconspicuous technician, but some kind of savior. Brother Sun, don't rush to go out first, Howard said gasping. He squatted in front of the steel door, squatting the toolbox in his hand for a while, with circuit boards and welding guns that were temporarily scrambled. The lock core of the door is damaged, and the self-destructive fragments just broke out. If there is another wave of detectors, we will be the target. I need parts, alloy plates and electronic chips. Sun Yu pointed his head, and his mind had reached out. He closed his eyes for a moment, the interface opened, and the green code surrounds the nearby signals like vines. The first blackness was as smooth as breathing, a patrol machine that fell 100 meters away from the door, with a crack in the chest cavity and a red light had already disappeared. He pulled lightly, and the remaining servo motas were buzzing, stretching their mechanical arms, dragging themselves toward the refuge. The scratch sound of metal rubbing the ground is transmitted through monitoring, like a nail plotted over the blackboard, making people feel sore. Howard, look outside the door. Sun Yu's eyes were slim, his voice trembling with an excited trembling. Howard looked at the head and glared. It is moving by itself? Brother Sun, your golden finger is a magical skill. The machine climbed to the door, and Sun Yu thought again, dismantled the mechanical arm and spit out the chips and alloy pieces, like the treasure's servant. Howard snatched up, grabbed the parts, and removed them and smiled. It's over. These chips can be used as electronic barriers, and the door can be upgraded. Sun Yu, you hold on top, I'll weld it. They both live on their shoulders, sparks flying, and hot waves swinging. Sun Yu is responsible for getting into more murderous bones, and Howard is fast installing them. Sweat slipped down Sun Yu's spine, mixed with oil, but he felt the change in his heart. From the past, he always fought alone, staying up late while repairing the system. Now, this is the rhythm of the team. Howard welding chat. I remember before the rebellion, I repaired a bunch of AI household appliances, but I didn't expect them to backfire. Brother Sun, can your tricks be hacked into the army? We have to build a defense line. Go step by step, Sun Yu replied, his fingers unconsciously typing the plot in the air. Stay home first. The solder sealed and the electronic barrier started. A blue force flashed on the door, buzzing low, like an invisible shield. At this moment, the monitoring screen shakes, small detectors are like bees rushing, red light scans, and laser preheating. The first pleasure point explodes, barrier activation, the laser hits the force field and turns into harmless sparks. The detector hit the door and was retaliated by the current, and the smoke rose and exploded. He was shocked by who in the refuge, and Howard patted Sun Yu on the back. It's done. This door is now a fortress. But I wish you never last long. Xuefen's voice came from behind. She pushed a car of flash suits that were temporarily slapped. The silver-gray clothes were flickered with dim light and the mask was hazy. Everyone listens, the training begins, she said, her voice crisply and urgently, like a teacher trying to emphasize the key points in class. Xuefen is the spine of the team, always so cold. Her horse's tail swayed under the light, and her eyes were hiding about the future. She dressed in different clothes, a survivor clumsily put on, rubber-like material tightly squinted the skin, making a squeak, like a living thing squirming. Seal warehouses are not luxury goods, Xuefan explained the explanation. She tightened her mask and her voice passed through the filter. That is our lifeblood. There are radiated genes that can produce plants that purify air and rebuild food chains. Without it, we will be able to hold for half a year. With it, we can build a grain. But the storm in the radiation area will rot everything, and wearing this dress requires learning to control breathing. Press down on the low chest cavity when inhaling, and exhale with the abdomen. If you miss it, you will get poisoned. A young mother tried to wear it and asked, Sister Xuefan, is it really okay? The green fog on the outside is so dense, my child. Xuefan squatted down, helped her adjust the seal belt, and said gently, okay, let's practice together. Sun Yu, can your electronic warfare help you explore the way? The detector of the detector may scan the radiation concentration. Sun Yu pointed at the head, feeling that he was responsible. He looked at everyone's clumsy actions and thought to himself, this is not a game, it is a living life. Li Chang's patrol report stopped the training. He rushed in, his body covered in dust and his electromagnetic gun was still hot. Bad news. The surrounding radiator area has expanded, and the green fog has swallowed half of the tunnel. Those machines are not only detecting, but also Thunder's radiator mines, which explode when touched. Sun Yu, we have to hurry up, otherwise the seeds will be blocked. Li Chang's scar is even more obvious under the light. He shakes off the soil on his shoulders, and his voice is as thick as sandpaper. I stayed too, but they are calling. The tightness of the current flows over the crowd. Resources are already short of resources, and now the patrol has consumed the last energy bar, and some people have started to fight. Why give Li Chang more? We're hungry, a man roared, pushing the delegate. The chaos broke out, the child cried and the fist danced. Sun Yu's heart sank. This is the end of the world, and eating will eat human nature. He stepped forward, his voice calmly, stop. We are not wild animals. But the war did not stop. A slut grabbed the energy bar, turned around and ran away. Sun Yu's growth has changed. He took a deep breath and the interface was fully opened. This was the first time he controlled multiple units far away, not only the dead, but also 3 external movable machines. He knew it like a net spread out, setting a goal, a transporter, an unmanned aircraft, 2 walkers. Code flows, command rewrites. They froze, then turn, the robotic arm stretches out, hold the escaped slug, lightly put the energy bar back, and then back, like a listening dog. The crowd was stunned, his face turned pale. Did they hear you? Hear me, Sun Yu said, with a little more authority in the voice, the resources belong to everyone, who will be eliminated. But now, we cooperate. This resolves the crisis, not violence, but a display of strength. He felt the double blade of the golden finger, the control machine is like a god, but what if it gets out of control? Is this power alone? Is this power saving people or enslaves? No. I use it to protect my partners, and the moral boundaries are in the protection. He was afraid that he would turn into a certainty, so he no longer felt hesitant. The tacit understanding was so natural at the beginning. Li Chang grinned, boy, you're pretty fucked. Now it's really the second wave of hits. The monitoring showed that the heavy machine group was approaching, 5 or 6 crushed the ruins like tanks, and the muzzles were flashing. The second pleasure point is like a tide, the team is moving. Howard activated the barrier, Li Chang opened fire to cover it, Xuefan led his men to block the inner door, and Sun Yu blacked into the head, allowing it to turn to his companions. The explosion was connected, and the flames blew into the sky, and the debris hit the barrier like rain, causing a slight rush. The lasers swept over and the heat waves swept into the air, but the door was as stable as a rock. Li Chang shot and fired his head and shouted, Sun Yu, that one on the left. Sun Yu responded, and the unmanned plane was pressed down and intercepted. Xuefan shouted behind her, the energy is stable, Don't damage the interface. At the end of the battle, the ground quakes had not dissipated, and the smoke inside was spreading, and the burnt smell was pungent. But they won. The team panted and gathered. Howren's laughter broke the silence. We are like an army. Li Chang patted Sun Yu's shoulder. Next time to explore, you will be the leader, my firepower. Xuefeng pointed. The radiator suit training has been completed and will be launched within 3 days. Sun Yu looked at everyone. His heart was filled with blood. Survival pressure is like a shadow, and the impact of resource competition is still there, but cooperation points highlight hope. The excitement of technological upgrades is like current dynamism. He knows that the road in the radiation area is full of thorns, green fog, ambushed by machines, and mines. But the green is waiting. Asterisk, we're leaving. Asterisk. The storm broke out again, and the roar was like a wild beast, and the barrier light on the door was flashing, guarding this faint fire. They started packing, and the chains in the radiator suit sounded, and the tightness felt like a bowstring was pulled. Sun Yu clenched his fist tightly, and his brain was calculating the route. Enter the inspection network, avoid the lightning area, and go straight to the seed bank. The rebirth of civilization begins this step. Number of words, 1248. The chain sound of the radiant suit is in a circumventing situation, like an ominous chorus, and each time one is pulled, it is a little heavier. Sun Yu took a deep breath. His silver-gray clothes were tight and skin-like, and the rubber-like material was cold and sticky. The filter of the mask emitted a low buzz, blurring his vision. The storm on the outside was still growling, and the green fog was lying like a venomous snake in the monitoring screen. The radiator jumped on the helmet display, medium alert. The 14 members, he, Howren, Xuefeng and Li Chang, stood in front of the steel gate, with the other survivors standing behind, eyes full of worry and dependence. The air is filled with the pungent smell of disinfectant, mixed with sweat and fear. Everything checks the seal belt. Xuefeng's voice came through the communication device, and he was determined. She turned around to check Howren's shoulder contacts. Her fingers were as smart as a surgeon. Howren, your left sleeve leaks air, and once you ejaculate, your skin turns into a bee. Remember, don't twist violently when moving, and the circulatory system in the clothes will last for 2 hours. Howren pointed his head, and it was so effective. His body looked clumsy in the clothes. He patted his chest and smiled roughly. Sister Xuefeng, don't worry, I've repaired the machine and half a piece of it. I'll come here by myself. Brother Sun, where are you? Is the interface stable? The external signal is a porridge, yours will be blocked. Sun Yu adjusted the mask, and the blue light interface had already spread out in the brain, like a hidden net, capturing the surrounding electronic slugs. He tried to stretch his mind with a silence of unmanned slaying from a distance from the darkness of the dead, and the picture instantly changed. On the ruined streets, green fogs rolled over, and the cracked neon lights were still faintly flashing, like dying eyes. The storm core is in the northeast direction, and a dense group of radiating clouds rotate like vortexes. Scanning shows that the density of the machines there is as high as 80%. Still, Sun Yu replied, his voice becoming mechanized through the filter. The road is clear. Go through the main street and enter from the sewer tunnel to avoid the storm eyes. It is 2 kilometers away from the seed library, but there is patrol rage. Li Chang, behind your palace. Li Chang carried the electromagnetic step gun, and the scar was visible under the mask. He grinned and his teeth were white. Boy, give it to me. Who dares to get close? I'll smash their CPU with a gun. The blue barrier on the door slid open, and a hot wave in green fog came over the face, like a foul smell exhaled from the depths of the ground. Sun Yu stepped out the first time, his boots crunched on the gravel, and his radiator jumped to high alert, his heart pounding. The world of ruins opened its bloody mouth. The collapsed building is like a giant corpse, the smell of metal burnt in the air, the explosion like a thunderbolt is everywhere, and the hum of the machine is hidden. They walked forward carefully, and the entrance of the tunnel was 100 meters away, and a twisted iron gate was half closed. Sun Yu's interface is constantly scanned. Green codes flow, marking out safety paths. Turn left to avoid mines, climb up the hill and over landslides. The green fog lit the ejaculation suit, and water droplets condensed from the mask, and the field was blurred. When he wiped it, his fingers trembled slightly. This fog can penetrate everything, and the seal will be broken. I am afraid it will pierce like ice pins, but he gritted his teeth and focused on the signal surrounding black. The team was tight, the boots were swelling, Howard's breathing was heavy, Li Chang's gun occasionally hit the wall, causing a metal collision. There is a silence ahead. Li Chang growled, his voice in the communication device rubbing like sandpaper. Sun Yu raised his head, and the interface warning flashed. 5 machine patrol teams approached as soon as possible from the tunnel. The leader is a heavy walker, 2 meters tall, and a vine-like cable climbing on the armor. The red scanner is like a demon's eye. The back is 4 light unmanned machines buzzing and rotating, the laser cannon is heated, and the heat waves rise in the air. Their footsteps shake the ground, gravel drops, approaching like a heartbeat. Blind! Sun Yu shouted, and the team flicked into the sidewalk with its back against the damp wall. The heart beats faster, and the sweat is steamed while serving, sticking to the second layer of skin. The machine team swept over and the red light swept over their hiding places, and Sun Yu felt the exposed chill. You can't fight hard, their firepower can melt us. He took a deep breath, his mind shot out like an arrow, and he drew the core firewall of the headmaster. The code is like a flood, the first pleasure point explodes, the hack is successful. The leader froze, the red light turned toward the companion, and then, it issued a lowering command, turning around and impulsing toward the unmanned aircraft behind. The laser light burst into flames, and the fire illuminated the tunnel, and the debris were smashed on the wall and it caused a slight shock. The patrol teams were killed by themselves, like rabies biting, screaming metal twists and sounds, and sparks danced in the green fog. "Let's go!" Sun Yu said in a humble manner, and the team rushed out and trampled over the war's destruction. Howard panted and followed, "Brother Sun, that one move is too bad." It sold the brothers directly. But Qin Zhu came to an abrupt end. Xuefen's left leg tore a hole in the left leg of the ejaculation suit, the green fog rushed in, and the counting machine jumped wildly. She snorted and knelt down to check the cracker. "I just wiped the fragments." "Howard, hurry!" Howard squatted down, took out his toolkit, and the flashlight beam shook. He quickly soldered and the sparks flashed in the green fog, and the heat came through the communication device. "Should you hold on, Xuefen? This material is crisp and the radiant wind cracks as soon as it blows." I added a layer of alloy sticker, which is good for 10 minutes. Xuefen gritted her teeth and endured the pain, and her voice was shaking professional. "Don't panic, I was accidentally collected when I collected the samples." "Wait, there is a fog here." "Anisopores, look, sticking to the crack, it can rot metal, but it may be used to cultivate resistant plants." She scraped the sample with a small trunk, stuffed it into the container of the waistband, and her eyes lit up behind the mask. "Sun Yu, if the seed library has a gene library, we can reverse this ghost thing. Ecology recovers, start from here." Behind Li Chang's palace, the gun was aimed at the remaining machine behind. An electromagnetic bullet hit the test map and the unmanned machine was chased. The explosion of the impact wave made the ground tremble. The head is clean afterwards, but the sound will attract more. "Sungo, speed up." His firepower was as thunderous as he stood firm, and his face under the scar was full of attention. As we move forward, the crisis layer is added. The tunnel was narrow and dense, and Sun Yu's interface began to interfere. The radiation irritated his mind like a static electricity. Suddenly, a green light swept over, and his shoulder sealed and his radiant suit was sealed and his smoke penetrated, and his skin was burning like a fire. Counter red flash, 30% of exposure risk. Afraid that the tide was coming, his vision was blurred, and he leaned on the wall, flashing his brain with lights that were away from the lights in team's faces. "You can't fall, there is no way out here." When exposed, I became a waste, and the team was completely finished. Inner heart is as unrestrained as lightning. From now on, he always hid in a safe area and never came out of his own when repairing the system. Now, this risk is his cross. But he clenched his fists, took deep breaths, and trembled under him. No, I am the leader. For them, break through. Growth and turn like current swelling the whole body. Sun Yu locked 3 nearby idle machines, 2 slaughtered and 1.5 million transport machine, with a precise mind stretching and no longer hesitated. The black's slippery like a silk, and he rewrites the instructions to make them form a guardrail team. The dead are opening in front, and behind the transport hall, the laser cannon is turned into defense mode. They buzzed and started, and their robotic arms danced, forming an iron wall to hold the red light of the pursuers behind them. Sun Yu felt confident as if a flame was ignited, the interface was stable, and the exposure warning dropped to 10%. Prepared in place, he said, his voice determined. Howren, have you fixed it? We'll continue. After Howren finished welding, he stood up and patted Shuefen on the shoulder. It's done. This suit is now harder than the tank skin. Shuefen stood up and the container flashed. Thank you. The analysis of these spores may make the Greenland take shape faster. Li Chan laughed. Brother Sun, your 3 iron warriors are exploding. Those machines are listening to you now, like a pet army. The team is full of energy and the tunnel is as bright as possible. They climbed a collapsed ramp, the green was a little thinner, and a slanted sign stood in the ruins. Entry of Seed Library B17, 500 meters. The second refreshing point is like the dawn of dawn. Sun Yu's interface scans to underground signals, and the hidden electronic locks are hidden, not traps, but keys. Finished, he said excitedly, loudly in the communication device. The entrance is in front, the signal is stable. Shuefen, your sample is accompanied by a seed bank, and we can produce purified plants. Li Chang, protect the team's upper wings. He shouted in the message and Howren shouted, Brother Sun, you are our trump card. Greenland, it's close. But in his joy, the crisis was predicted by the shadow of the buzzing drama of the far-distance machine army. The horizon's radius cloud roll was even bigger, a red light swept over the protection team, hitting a skeleton, and sparking 4 sparks. Although the exposure risk has receded, the greater challenge is waiting, the guardian of the seed bank, the deep-buried radiation core. Sun Yu clenched his fists and headed forward, his boots stepped on gravel, and his stormy roar was like a war drum, beating the next battle. They approached the entrance, and the iron doors were stained with green fogs. Sun Yu's interface penetrated into the lock core, and the code was knocked lightly, but the alarm inside was hidden. The shadow of the machine's head was approaching. The team stopped, breathed rapidly, and the stimulation of adventure was like current storm, stepping on the tip of the knife every step. The fire of civilization is right behind the door, waiting for them to knock on. Terms, 1263. The edge of the iron door shone invisibly in the green fog, like a sleeping giant beast. The cold wind squirting from the door circumcises the soil and rotten breath, coming over, making Sun Yu's radiation filter buzz. The team stood in the wall, and the boots slashed on the gravel, and the machines far away were buzzing closer and closer, like a beehive growling in a shocked growl. Sun Yu's interface is moving, and the code of the lock core is like a solid lock chain, with a warning response. There is an encryption layer inside, not a simple black entry. He took a deep breath, the air inside the mask was hot and sticky, and sweat slid down the nudes. The entrance is confirmed, it's 50 meters away. But there are ambushing signs in the signal, at least 10 machines, hidden around the mid-segment crater. Howren, do you feel the shock? Howren squatted beside him, the tool in his hand buzzing and scanning the ground. His voice was silenced through the communication device, as if it was coming from an iron bucket. I feel it, Sun Go. There are slugs on the ground, as if they are digging a trap. The fog is the most fog, and when you step on the mine, we will all plant it. He patted his strobe suit, and the alloy sticker flashed under the light. My welding gun is hot and can be strengthened at any time. But your clothes, the connection between the shoulders and knees is thin, and when the green fog is blown, the skin will blister. Li Chan was exploring the way forward, and the sighting lens of the electromagnetic step gun reflected green light. He said in a low voice, don't waste, move. Shuefen, you bring a data tablet and unread the entrance code. Sun Yu and I were in front of us. His scar was stretched under the mask, and his voice was as thick as sandpaper, full of the military's fault. Xuefeng pointed at the head, and the container on her waist was still loaded with a spore sample. The tablet screen lit up slightly in the fog. I tried a preliminary scan. The outer door of the seed library has biological encryption gene locks, which needs to be matched with human DNA. But the database has radiation protection blue pictures, or maybe it can upgrade our clothes. Sun Yu, can your interface help decrypt? Sun Yu whispered, his mind stretched out, and the blue light interface was like a tide. But this time is different. When he touches the entrance signal, a heat flows into the brain, like a spark from a circuit. New module for interface pop-up, Vision Fusion. Asterisk upgrade? Asterisk he was stunned for a moment, and tried to connect a dead body with a dead body near the skull. The world suddenly changed, his vision was split, his left eye was still a tunnel, and his right eye was cut into a red scan of the dead body. In the middle of the radiator pit, 8 walking machines were hidden under the green fog, which were disguised into ruins. The muzzle was preheated, and the ambush was dense like a spider. Predictive trajectory flashes, they will stumble from the bottom of the pit and block the retreat. Advanced. Sun Yu said in a whisper. I can use their eyes to see the future attack. Ambushed in the middle section, Batai, and there are mines at the bottom of the pit. Li Chang, surfing the left wing, I lead it. As the team advances, the green fog becomes more and more dense, lying on the boots like a living creature, and the radiator is red and flashed on the helmet, high risk. The pit was in sight, and the cracked steel tendons stretched out like claws, and the air was filled with the sour smell of metal rottenness. Suddenly, the ground was shaking, and Li Qian stepped on a loose stone slab, and the red light at the bottom of the pit lit up. Ambush activated. 8 machines were scattered like ghosts, laser cannons were slashed, the first beam of light rubbed over Li Chang's shoulder, burning the edge of the clothes, and licking them like flames. He fell down, his gun shot, and a light machine hit the electromagnetic bomb, sparking, but more red lights locked him. Don't die, slap. Li Chang roared, slapped his body and avoided it, smashing the stones with his boots and slapping the dust. Crisis is like flash, and Sun Yu's vision integration is fully opened. He predicted by the eyes of 3 unmanned machines, the laser track is like a net, and Li Chang will be blocked in the next second. Asterisk you can't rely on yourself. Asterisk when his heart flashed, he no longer felt hesitant, his mind shot out like an arrow, and he directly drew the core of the head without human beings. The code is like a flood, and the darkness is as smooth as breathing. The first exciting point is revealed, no one can turn against each other. It turned toward the buzzing point, the laser cannon hit the ambush point, and the 3 bursts were launched. The pit bottom machine exploded and the debris were like rain. The metal morning birds were rushing into the tunnel. Sun Yu locked and controlled the other 2, allowing them to thunder and hit the mines. The ring exploded like thunder and the green fog was torn apart by the fire, illuminating the twisted bones in the pit. Saving Li Chang at that moment, he rushed to the safety zone, his gun still held tightly, and gasped, Sun Yu, your eyes are so amazing. I almost turned into barbecue. But the battle was not over. 5 walking machines approached, and the robotic arms slapped the balloon, cutting the air and making a harsh buzz. Li rose up and led the battle closer. Howren, protect Xuefeng. Sun Yu, the air is flying. He rushed forward, and the electromagnetic bullets burst into contact with a machine, causing it to kneel down, and then a gun burst into the head, sparks pouring on his clothes. The burnt smell was pungent. Come on, Iron Jar. Li Chang roared, his movements like a tiger, his eyes under his scars ignited. Howren was not idle, he rushed towards Xuefeng and ran to weld her clothes crack. Xuefeng, don't move. The radiation in this pit is high, and the green fog is eating the material. The spark was flying, and he grabbed the alloy strips from the tool kit, urgently strengthened the team's knees and shoulders, and the welding gun was swept into the fog. Brother Sun, where's your guard team? Call soon. After strengthening, he threw away the heat, grabbed a modified wrench, smashed it to the legs of an approaching machine, and gave a slight remark. This server is now 50% resistant to pressure, hold it. Xuefan knelt at the pit, inserting the data tablet into the entrance to the auxiliary port. Her fingers danced, deciphering the encryption. The gene lock is matching. Successful. The data of the outer layer door has been unveiled, and there are the first batch of seed blue pictures, anti-radiation microscope and purified algae. Sun Yu, interface synchronization, help me download. Her voice was thrilling, and the tail was shaking in the fog, staring at the green light on the screen, like scientists discovered a new mainland. Sun Yu pointed his head, and the fusion of vision allowed him to predict the next wave. 2 heavy aircraft emerged from the pit, with the muzzle facing Xuefan. After passing the truck, the current in the brain was like a sting, but he gritted his teeth and held on, controlling the guard team to kill the body, and crashed, and the heavy machine stumbled, opening the space for Li Chang. The electronic warfare and survival are inextricably integrated. His black interference machine signal, Li Chang's contr opens the defense line, Howren's reinforcement suppresses the radiation backlash, and Xuefan's data is like a guide to the light tower. The turn was suddenly turned. Sun Yu tried to integrate more vision, more than 10 units, interface collapse. The blue light flashed like an explosion, the brain hurt like an electric shock, the field of vision revolved into a mess, his knees were soft, he knelt on the ground, the policeman in the radiator suit said, the energy was overflowing, and the exposure risk was 60%. The green fog takes advantage of the situation and burns the skin, like a fire sucking. Asterisk it's too relied on, this power is not infinite. Asterisk the inner self is short and profound, fear is coming, he remembers the lights that are in vain and the faces of the team. In the past, he always wanted to carry it alone, now, the collapse of the church energy management is like breathing, which requires periodicity and depends on team division. Asterisk not me alone, it's us. Trust them. Asterisk. He gasped and cut the fusion, and took a step back. Howren, take over the vision and leave data. Li Chang, lead the left wing. As the words finished, growing like current and regaining confidence. Howren grabbed the tablet and scanned it simultaneously, received. The thunder at the bottom of the pit has been cleared, the entrance is safe. Li Chang laughed loudly, and a gun exploded the last approaching machine. Boy, rest, I'm here. He led the way to the sudden outbreak, and the gun was like rain, covering up Sun Yu's recovery. After the energy stabilized, Sun Yu stood up, and the interface was much refreshing. He learned, the time limit for black entry is 5 minutes, the vision limit is 3 units, and he can keep it to the team to help. This is his transformation, from ability to trust bridge. The second cool point is like the dawn, the interface is synchronized with Xuefan data, and the entrance lock core is reprinted. The iron door slit opens, and the outer layer sling is exposed, the silver storage cabinet is flashed, Sun Yu stretches out his hand, black into the automatic sales machine-like device, the first batch of seed samples pop out, a tube of anti-radiation microscope and purified algae capsule, with a soft green light, symbolizing hope for reconstruction. Xuefan rolled up and her eyes were damp, it's done. These can purify the air and produce the first green island. Sun Yu, thank you. The team gasped and gathered, and Li Chang patted Sun Yu's shoulder, it's okay to overload it, you are hard. Howren checked the uniform, it works, the radiation has dropped. The way back is open, but the inner door is still locked, and the signal of the machine army is approaching. Sun Yu held the sample tube tightly and bleeded. The inner heart is turned intact, asterisk no longer a lonely wolf, but a leader. The team is my energy source. Asterisk outside the green fog, the wind is roaring, and there is a red light flash hidden deep in the entrance, a bigger challenge is waiting. But with resources in hand, hope sprouts like seeds, they turn around, boots step on the way out, and the fire of the electronic war will light up the ruins. The dead bones at the bottom of the pit were still emitting smoke, and the firelight reflected the team's radiant suit, with scorched marks on the silver gray, like a battle seal. In Sun Yu's brain, the interface is low and the energy bar is backfilled. He knew that this was only the middle section, the core of the seed bank was still buried deep, and the shadow of the machine's head was like a cloud cover. but the weight of this picture is heavy in your hands, like the struggle of civilization, jumping towards the future. Howard walked along the well to the last crack. Brother Sun, I'll call me before I load it next time. I have a circuit to divert the flow. Xuefan hugged the script. The data shows that there is an ecological simulation on the inner layer. We can use spores to cultivate and change the anti-cancer. Behind Li Chang's palace, the gun was swollen. Let's go home to build the Green Island. I'm waiting to eat fresh rice buns. In the retreat, the green fog was a little thinner, and the blue light barrier at the top of the tunnel was visible. But Sun Yu's vision captures the distance. The machine cluster is clustered, and the red light is like a tide. They accelerate. The rhythm of survival is like a war drum. The points of resource acquisition have passed, and the next battle will be the upgrade of the base. The storm roared outside. The team's pace was fixed, and hope quietly took root in the cracks of the Doomsday. The green fog was like a furious touchman, lying on the team's radiating suits, and the sound of the tunnel was like the earth tearing apart its wounds. Sun Yu was holding the seed tube tightly in his hand. The soft green light flashed in the reflection of the mask, like a phantom of a remote green continent. But I didn't last long. The radiator on the helmet display jumped wildly, the high alert turned red and flashed, and the storm was added. The whirlpool on the outside was low, the green fog poured into the crack, and the smell of electricity was filled with the air, which was as hot as an invisible flame licking the skin. The boots crunched rapidly on the slippery gravel, and the team accelerated to retreat. Howard's breathing was heavy through the communication device, and Li Chang's gun occasionally hit the wall. Sparks burst out. Brother Sun, there is a silence behind you. Li Chang growled. Behind his palace, his eyes under the scars swept the darkness through the sight of the lens. The interface left by the monitoring was flashed in Sun Yu's brain. The red light spots were like a tide, and at least 20 large machine soldiers approached from the bottom of the pit. Their buzzing birds are like thunder, the walkers crush the ground, the unmanned wheels whirlpools, and the chasing rhythm is like a heartbeat. They call. The storm eyes are expanding. We are in the middle, and the retreat is half closed. Xuefan hugged the script. Her voice was urgent. Don't stop, the tunnel exit is still 500 meters. But the fog is doubled, and the circulation system of the clothes cannot be suppressed. Howard, how long can your reinforcement last? She ran to check the tablet. The green light on the screen reflected the tail, and the sweat beads on her face condensed into a fog. Howard panted and followed, and the tool kit in his hand dinged. 2 hours on the top, but when the storm blows, the alloy sticker will relax. Sun Yu, where's your guardian? Call a few iron bumps and pull it off. Sun Yu pointed his head, his heart beat like a drum. He felt that the interface's energy had recovered by 80%, but large-scale blackmail was the first challenge. The consciousness stretches like a net, capturing the surrounding signals, not only our pursuers, but also scattered soldiers, more than 30 units, mixed with light and heavy units. The green fog interfered with the vision, and the current in the brain stinged, but he gritted his teeth and held on. Asterisk, you can't panic, this is a strategy, not a waste of trouble. Asterisk, the first wave of black was shot out like an arrow. He locked the 5 leaders without humans, coded the flood and rewrite the instructions. They froze, then the buzzer turned toward their companions. The lasers burst into flames, and the explosion of fires tear apart the green fog, and the debris hit the army behind like rain, chasing them. But not enough. The storm core approached. The green clouds were like huge waves rolling, the meter was red to the limit, and the team's clothing began to creak and seal the edges of the fog. Li Chang opened fire to cover it, and an electromagnetic bomber hit an approaching walker, and sparks started to heat up. Sun Yu, hurry up. They have encircled 3 left wings. The crisis increased, and Sun Yu's vision was blurred, and he was overwhelmed. The inner self is short, the team is looking at me, and doubt will destroy everything. The evidence to them is not about luck, but reliability. Asterisk. Growth and turn like an electric light flash. He no longer scattered in black, but instead made a strategic plan. The interface opens the full picture, predicts the pursuit of the path, and selects the 10 idle machines and 8 live soldiers along the storm. Ideas are like a guide to dance, and a large-scale electronic warfare is launched. He forms a defense network, allowing the dead body to be in the front wall, and the lively soldiers turn to the self-destruction mode. The excitement exploded and was shocked. The pursuers collided with the internet, and Sun Yu thought to prevent the internet from collapsed into a sea of fire. The machine self-destructs the ring, and the explosion is like a fireball. Fireballs rush the sky. Debris and hot waves reversely push green fog, forming a temporary barrier. The storm was blocked for a moment, the green cloud split, the team rushed out of the tunnel, the air was fresher, the boots stepped on the ruined street, and the light of the blue barrier appeared in front of it. "Fuck beautifully." Li Chang laughed, patted Sun Yu on the shoulder, and made the cow shake. Those iron cans explode into smoke, and the wind was scattered. "We are safe." Howard panted and followed, glaring with his eyes. "Brother Sun, you are not in a black spot, but a big battle. The energy is not damaged, right?" Xuefen's voice was admiration. "The picture is intact, and the data is stable." "Sun Yu, your interface saved us, but on the way back, I heard the wireless of the survivors and had doubts. Say your golden fingers were unstable, and after loading, the team was completely trapped." Sun Yu swallowed, and the sweat inside the mask was cold. The road back to the escape was short and flat, with walls and walls like tombstones in the ruins, and the explosions and waves were still circulating. But Xuefen's words were like a sting, and doubts appeared inside the team. After a few days of resource disputes, someone privately argued that his power was too mysterious and he was out of control. Howard pointed at the head and walked around and said, "Yes, Brother Sunday. I just exploded myself," but Lao Wang and others in the way said, "You are in a brain when you get into the dark, like a flash of lightning. What should we do if we collapse? Everyone depends on you, and it will be very stressful." Li Chang interjected, his voice was rough, "Stop talking, Sun Yu has proved it. It wasn't him just now, we have turned to ashes. But Sun brother, what do you think? Is the interface extremely limited?" Sun Yu stopped and turned to them. In the thin green, the silver light and the radiant suit reflected each other's faces. He took a deep breath and his voice was determined. "There are extreme limits, but not weak points. I learned the period, the time when black is limited, the visual limit is integrated, and we can keep it for you to share. Howard repairs the equipment, Li Chang's firepower, Xuefen's data, we are on the internet, not me alone. It is normal to doubt it, but let me prove that after returning to the site, the first thing is to upgrade to the base." The team deepened its tacit understanding, and Howard patted him in the back. "Okay, Brother Sunday. You are a strategist. Since you used to repair the system, you are always so proud of yourself. Now you are like a military officer." Xuefen smiled, "Yes, the sample analysis will prove your reliability. The ecological data can reflect the interface and optimize the blackmail." Li Chang grinned, "I believe in you. After the weapon is repaired, we will build the iron wall." The door of the steel slips open, the blue barrier is buzzing, the air inside is hot, the survivors are pouring on, the children are crying and the old man is breathing. Once the sample is obtained, the team will move in scattered action. Howard went straight to the engineering area. He cleared a storage room, put on the warm wall, and danced with the tools in his hand. "Brother Sun, come and help." These anti-radiation microscope seeds are first planted in the purifier to simulate the heater. Purification of algae and placed in the circulating pond can filter the air. Sun Yu passed the sample, the welding light pipe chatted. "Howard, the weak spot in the room is in the light. The radiating light is unstable. I blacked into the old solar panel and upgraded the light." The sparks were flying, and the hot waves were swollen. Howard laughed, "It's done." The initial temperature room was built, and the first batch of seedlings came out in 3 days, and the base air would be sweet. Xuefen was buried in the scientific vein, and the data sheet was connected to the sample tube, and the screen was green light flashed. She analyzed and explained, "Look, this radiation affects the ecology like a double-blade sword. Green spore rotten metal, but it also stimulates changes. Algae can neutralize 40% toxicity, and the small root system cleanses the soil. Sun Yu, your interface data comes in synchronously. and can predict storm pathways. Help us choose. Sun Yu pointed his head, touched the tablet lightly. Infusion of blue light, Shuefen. The spore sample has weaknesses, high temperature killing bacteria, but the genes are retained for preventing plants. Team cooperation, this is the key. Her eyes lit up, and the relationship was like a vine intercourse. Thank you, Sun Yu. I have always had my own experience since before, and now with you, the data is alive. Li Chang hit the electromagnetic step gun in the weapon area, and the parts were scattered all over the ground, and the metal knocking sounded like a rhythm. Boy, come. The gun pipe is burned, and it just exploded and the fragments are rubbed. Upgrade it, add your black module, detonate at a distance. Sun Yu squatted down, and the interface penetrated the gun core, reprinting the electric loo. Li Chang, add a shielding layer, and the machine is squirting. Your firepower is bone stock, and my electron is blood. Li Chang shook his gun and tried to shoot. The blue light flashed, and the head was stable. Great. Now this thing can lock 10 goals. Brother Sun, your golden fingers are reliable, I'm convinced. Dissolution is resolved in action. As the survivors gathered, Lao Wang's resource conflict approached and his face was awkward. Sun Yu, I just suspected you. But the picture came back, the room lights lit up, and we were wrong. Sun Yu shook his hand. It's okay, let's prove it together. Come, help the vast land. The crowd moved, laughter replaced the low words, and the relationship deepened like a cornerstone. The second cool point is like current passing through the base. Sun Yu leads the technology upgrade. He summoned the slaughter parts, hacked into the core system, installed an automatic defense network. The blue barrier on the door was expanded to the surrounding wall, and the slaughter was transformed into a sentinel, laser switch mode, and full interface coverage monitoring. In the last piece of Howren welding, Li Chang loaded the medicine, and Shuefen inputted ecological data to optimize energy. When starting, the buzzer is flushed, and the red lights turn green, and the survival rate increases by 30%. He was shouting and exploded, and Sun Yu stationed in the center, and his chest was filled with blood. This is not the end, it is the beginning. The defense system connects my interface, warning of storm and machines. But in the joy, the interface warning flash. The remote signal is abnormal, a powerful force is like the leader's roar, the machine army is gathered, with an unprecedented scale. Sun Yu was deeply impressed. The greater threat is coming, not a scattered soldier, but an organizational war. He turned to the team. Preparation, Greenland is just beginning to form, but the battle is hot. Howren pointed, Brother Sun, we will follow. Shuefen smiled, the ecological data shows that hope is taking root. Li Chang raised his head, come on, the Iron King. The base light shook, the greenery seedlings were green, the outside was stormy, but the guard was guarded by the buzzing net. Sun Yu clenched his fists and the strategy's vision was revealed. Next, expand the base and hit the leader. The team's tacit understanding is like the internet. In the crack of doomsday, their fire is getting stronger and stronger. The red light hidden in the distance is approaching, the war drum has been beaten, and the rebirth of civilization is on the front line. The lights that are away from the harbor are dim and yellow like fire, swaying on the steel wall and casting long shadows. The air is filled with a faint earthy smell of new algae, which is mixed with the burnt breath of energy bars that is quickly consumed. Sun Yu rubbed his eyebrows and stared at the monitoring screen. The movements of the blue anti-guard network are now exhausted, with only 40% of the energy bar left. Although the first batch of small maize seedlings in the room were green and oily, the resources were short of resources, the food distribution was reduced by half, the air circulation was unstable, and the survivors were more and more low-pitched, like the thunder before the storm. Brother Sun, we can't hold back. Lao Wang approached, with a deep pattern on his face. He was the leader of the former resource battle. Now he is looking for help. The algae filter the poison, but the energy bar is only 3 days left. The storm external machine is still gathering, and the first batch of samples of the seed warehouse are not enough, so we have to dig more at the core. Sun Yu pointed his head, his heart was as deep as a pen. In the past, he always wanted to take the wrongdoing alone to prove that he was not the technician who was wise, but now, the team's eyes told him that the hero was not a lone wolf. He turned to Howren. The engineer was buried in front of the tool table, with oil stains on his hands, and the design papers were scattered all over the ground. Howren, the second time to explore the core of the seeds. The last time you strengthened the suit, but this time the storm was even more violent, and you had to increase the climate module, something to prevent green fog from invading. Howren raised his head, grinned, and his eyes were filled with excitement. Son, I thought of it for a long time. The mold can circulate the heat and storm on the top. But the material is in the warehouse, we have to do it. Shuefeng walked out of the scientific carriage, holding the data plate, and a little green algae powder was stained on the tail. The core layer has a complete gene library, and the key seeds such as antivariant trees and food crops can build a large green. But the Guardian system is an AI old, intelligent, the ejaculation and interference are large. Sun Yu, can you solve the weakness after your interface is upgraded? Li Chang relied on the wall to wipe the gun. The scar was stretched, and his voice was rough. I will go to the firepower any time. Sun Yu, leader, I will not leave any way back this time. Sun Yu looked at them, and his chest was filled with blood. Asterisk, not me alone, it's us. Split, start now. Asterisk, he took a deep breath. Okay, let's go tomorrow. Team of 4, target core. Come back, we build the green. The radiator suit was even heavier after upgrading. Howren's climate module was like a second layer skin, which was buzzing and expelling heat, and the air inside the mask became clearer. The team stepped out of the steel door again, and the green fog came like a living thing, and the storm roared and trembled the ground. On the ruined streets, the walls of the walls are covered with green moss, and the explosions and waves are still rumbling around, like the jump of the heart. They followed the last road, and the entrance to the tunnel had become scorched earth. Sun Yu's interface scan, the signal was chaotic, but the core layer was strong and there was a red light guarding. Go straight to the entrance, Sun Yu said in a low voice, touching the nearby dead body lightly, summoning 2 walkers to protect him. The robotic arms opened in the front, and the laser swept green. After a while of progress, Howren's module developed a miraculous effect. When the green licked the clothes, the buzzing buzzed the bulb and released algae. The fog disappeared like acid, and the air was filled with a faint smell of seaweed. This module. Howren gasped, and adjusted the valve along the way. The heat cycle is circulating, and the radiation drops by 20%. Brother Sun, your guard team is stable, we are almost at the pit. Behind Li Chang's palace, the gun's shadow was locked. Don't relax, the tail of the machine army is still there. Shuefeng's flat flash, the core data shows that there are biological locks in the warehouse, but the security is the old AI, and the weakness is the radiation core. If you pass them, you can destroy yourself. The dead bones at the bottom of the pit were still emitting black smoke. They walked down the road, the entrance to the iron door was opened, and the outer layered room was flickered. Sun Yu blacked into the port, the inner door slipped open, and a cold mechanical smell swelled, like a cold breath exhaled from the deep underground. The core layer is as deep as a maze, with LED lights continuously flashing on the wall, and a low buzzing bird in the air. The team advanced 100 meters ahead, and the police report said, the red light was coming like a tide. Intelligent guard activation. 12 elite machines, drawn from the wall and the top of the sky, 2 meters high like a wolf pack, crawling on the armor with a sense of detection cable. Red eyes scanned and locked, laser cannon preheated, and heat waves entered the channel. Click! Li Chang roared, turning on the fire. A Guardian leg joint in the electromagnetic bomb. Sparks exploded, but the thing only shook, and the robotic arm used the dancer to cut the air, buzzing and harsh. Howren pulled Shuefeng back. Brother Sun, weak. Interface probe. Shuefeng screamed, they have a self-healing module. The core is radiating in the chest cavity, and the load is black. Green fog entered from the crack, the meter was red and flashed, and the team's uniform squeaked. Sun Yu's heart was beating like thunder, and his mind was fully opened. Interface movement, a blue light upgrade flash appears. New module unlocking weak point analysis. If the current penetrates the brain, his vision is heavy, and the guard code is as transparent as X-ray. there is a radiation loophole in the core firewall, and it will collapse after being loaded. The pleasure exploded rapidly. He locked 3 heads, his mind was like a diamond piercing in, and the code was flooded, and he wrote the self-destruction order again. The guard stiffened, the red eyes turned, and the core of the chest cavity was overheated. The connection is like a fire, the explosion of fireballs slams into the sky, the debris smashes the wall, the heat waves swell, and the passages are shaking. The remaining guards are in chaos, the laser shoots the companion, and the morning metal twists and turns. The door is open. Sun Yu shouted. The interface unblocked the warehouse door simultaneously, the silver-colored door slid open, and the green inside was bright, countless storage tubes were flashed, and the core of the seed warehouse was like a warehouse was opened. Li Chang took advantage of the sudden attack and the gun was slammed and killed. Boy, magical skill. I clear my tail. He shot 5 times, bursting out 2 approaching guards. His face under the scar was full of sweat, but his eyes were lit. Howren rushed to the console. The material of the climate module is here. Alloy tubes and algae walls, Sungo, protect them. I designed an upgraded version, a full coverage protective cover that can be stormed. He danced with his fingers, the welding gun sparks flying, the heat mixed with green fog, and shouted, "This module connects your interface, automatically adjusts the radiation." Xuefan went straight to the gene cabinet, and the tablet connected to the host. Key seeds are being extracted. Antivariant trees, food crops, and purified strains. Data shows that these can build hundreds of green continents and purify the global fog. She grabbed the tube, green light reflected the horse's tail, and the sound was exciting. Sun Yu, download the blue map simultaneously, and your weakness analysis can optimize the ecological protection. An electronic tag is implanted in the seeds to prevent the machine from breaking down. But the climax turned and suddenly came. Sun Yu's trial picture analysis is limited to the remaining Guardians, more than 15 units. The interface is loaded. The blue light flashed like an explosion, the pain in the brain was like a sting, the vision twisted into a green whirlpool, the knee was soft, he knelt on the ground, and the radiator suit warned the crazy bird, the backlash risk was 80%. Green fogs enter while they are invisible, burning the nerves, like fire burning the brain. It's too urgent, I want to carry it alone again. Inner self-indulgence, from the movement of a personal hero to the collective leadership enlightenment. He gasped and cut the connection and took a step back. Howren, take over the analysis data. Li Chang, firepower is on the top. Xuefan, the best seat. I have a stable energy. The team responded instantly, and this was a tacit test. Howren grabbed the tablet and slammed the weak points in the synchronous way. Received. The module is welded. Upgrade your interface. Add diversion circuit to prevent backlash. In the spark, he threw away the heated iron and threw it to Sun Yu. An alloy ring. Wear it, the energy will divide me. Li Chang laughed loudly, and the gun was hot. Boy, let's rest. I'll clear this pile of iron skin. He led the war. The electromagnetic bullet burst like rain, and 3 guards exploded, and the debris hit the ground and covered Sun Yu's recovery. Xuefan extracted the edge and shouted, "The seeds are stable. Download the blue picture by 90%. Your data will help you a lot." Team division is the breakthrough. The backlash retreated. Sun Yu stood up, and his brain was much more refreshing. The alloy ring diversion energy, making the interface look like a new life. He no longer cares about it, but pointed out, Li Chang, the left wing detonates. Howren, the module connects the gun to strengthen the firepower. Growing up like current restarts, from the fantasy of heroes to the leader's wisdom, he learns trust, and pressure is like network division. The second refreshing point is like the dawn falling. The warehouse door is fully open, the extracted Xuefan, and the complete seeds are obtained, thousands of green tubes. Blue pictures show reconstruction of blue pictures, green simulation, food circulation, and ecological protection. The Howren module was completed, the prototype of the climate protection cover was started, the silver light covered the team's clothing, and the green fog was dissipated as if it was an enemy. It's done. Xuefan hugged the box, his eyes moistened. These seeds are hope. Trees can carry forest walls and storm, crops have grown thousands of people, and strains have purified the ruins. Sun Yu, our Greenland, starts from this. Li Chan cleared the last guard and shook his gun and laughed. Saturday. Boy, your leader, I'm in the suit. On the return trip, the machine army came, but we have the iron wall. Howard patted Sun Yu's shoulders. The module has upgraded the base's potential, the protective cover interface, and the warning head signal. Sun Yu held the box tightly, and his chest was filled with blood. The inner reversal is complete, * no longer a personal show, it is a collective hotspot. Teams are my source of strength. * outside the passage, red light approaches, and the buzzing of the machine army is like a tide, but the complete library brings dawn, survival balance attack, they pack and retreat, boots step on the retreat path, green tubes flash in the box, symbolizing the rebirth of civilization. The storm roared outside, and there was an AI slaughter after the warehouse, but the team was determined, and after the mid-summation, the next battle would be a major upgrade to the base. Howard walked around and chatted, "Brother Sun, come back to the office and build the second phase of the greenhouse first. This batch of seeds can be doubled." Xuefan pointed out, the data shows that the green-blue map can be expanded to the edge of the city. Li Chang's palace said, "Come on, leader, I'm waiting to explode you." In the retreat, the green fog was opened by the module, and the air was fresher. Sun Yu's interface is low, weak analysis lasts forever, and the team's laughter revels in the channel. The resource crisis is resolved, and hope is like seeds breaking the ground. In the crack of the doomsday, their attacks are just hot. The red tide in the distance is surging, but the green silhouette has taken shape in the brain. The door that was away from the barrier slipped open in the buzz of the blue barrier, and the team dragged the heavy box into it. The green tube flashed like stars under the light. The air was filled with the soil and metal smell deep in the seeds, and the green stinking smell left on the team's radiating suit. Sun Yu took off the box, his shoulders were sore as fire, but he looked at the eyes of the survivors, and turned from the desperate look to the heat, and a warm current surged in his chest. The refuge is now full of people, the children's laughter is sparse, and the adults' whispers are like the thunder before the storm. The resource crisis is still there, but these seeds are reversals. "Brother Sun, don't take a break first," Howard said, gasping. He threw off his toolkit, his body was covered in sweat, and his eyes were fixed on the green tube in the box. The things in the core warehouse are too strong. Antivariant trees, food crops, and purified strains. I have to build an ecological carton immediately, otherwise these things will change when they are put. He squatted down, grabbed a tube of trees, shaking them lightly, and the green light beating in his palms, like the heartbeat of a living creature. Sun Yu pointed his head and wiped off the sweat of the magnitude. "Howard, you lead the engineering team, I help the old wind system and optimize climate control. Xuefan, the cultivation starts with you. Li Chan, the organization training. The signal of the machine army is approaching, we cannot just guard it." Xuefan picked up several tubes of seeds and walked towards the science wheel. Her tail swayed under the light, and her voice was gentle and rapid. "Okay, the first batch of plants are the first microbial and algae, and the species are in the second phase of the room. The roots of these trees are strong and can purify the soil, but they need to simulate the light. Sun Yu, can your interface data help me adjust parameters?" Li Chang carried the gun, the scar was stretched, and grinned. "Teach me, Lao Wang and those people are tired of their stomachs, and now they have guns and train them to become war. Brother Sun, I tell you to be responsible and explore the bottom of the red tide." The teams were scattered, and they were busy like a hive. Sun Yu retreated to the monitoring room alone. The steel chair was cold and biting. He closed his eyes and the blue interface was spreading like a tide. The energy bar is stable at 70%, and the diversion of the alloy ring makes him feel much more relaxed. The consciousness stretches, far away from the black-headed and dead signal. The green code is like a vine crawling in the brain, the machine is dense in the ruins, and the red light is like a galaxy gathering, pointing to the old data tower in the center of the city. Where is the head leader? He digs deep, and the picture appears: a group of giant cores like black shadows, surrounding countless machines, sending powerful impulses, and commands spread to the army like a network. Information: the first position is confirmed, 3 kilometers away from the base. The defense layer is as thick as a fortress. The army is gathering and is expected to attack within 2 days. But I was confused. Interface pop-up options, internet-wide storm. Sun Yu's fingers trembled unconsciously. With a thought, he could scoundrel the entire communication network, causing the army to collapse and kill each other as before. But the sting of morality in the brain, is this a mediocre? Controlling them is like a toy, and when it backfires, it becomes the monster master? Since I was in trouble, I was a life-saving person, but now, is this a murder, or is it justification? Inner's heart is as white as ice. I am afraid of coming. He remembers the team's face, Howren's smile, Xuefen's slander, and Li Chang's heat. No, I am not a god, I am a man. Power is used for protection, not for damage. Select the period to prove growth. He took a deep breath, cut off the entire network selection, and only stormed local communications to the front of the army. The pleasure is just like current explosion. With a thought, Sun Yu drew his mind into the core of the Foreman machine, coded floodwater, and rewrite the communication module. They froze, the red light flashed, and then, fucked. The forwards collided and hit each other, lasers shot each other, and the explosion of fireballs penetrated the sky, and the debris hit the back like rain, blocking the rhythm of the army's attack. In the monitoring screen, the red tide stopped and the buzz turned into the wail of the metal. Sun Yu slim his eyes and stood up panting, feeling of responsibility coming like a mountain, but it was even more certain, this is a strategy, not a slaughter. The team needs me to be awake. The construction of ecological plants is in full swing. Howren led Lao Wang to several troubles, cleared out the space after avoiding difficulties, and the steel plate hit the sound of the sound, sparks flying and the heat waves were swept. They used alloy tubes of the seed tank to build the frame to protect the bottom of the mattress. Sun Yu blacked into the old light tube, upgraded to a simulated radiant light, and the green light was like morning light. Howren, the ventilation of this carries is weak at the top, said Sun Yu's soldering side, and the circuit board in his hand was humming. I'll add your climate module, and the algae circulates, which can produce oxygen by itself. Howren laughed and wiped off his sweat. Brother Sun, God's help. The first batch of small wheat seedlings will come in and seedlings will emerge in 3 days. The trees are stretched, and the root system can be expanded, turning into a green heart. Lao Wang pushed the soil basin with a rough voice. Sun Yu, thank you. I used to be rude, but now I weld the steel plate for the sake of the children. The conflict was resolved in sweat, and the base will profile was revealed, from the cave to the fortress. Xuefen's cultivation was hot. She put on gloves and sprinkled the small seeds into the plate with her heart. The algae capsule dripped into the circulation pond. Green bubbles appeared on the water surface, and the air was filled with a faint fragrance of seaweed. Look, these plants have strong radiation resistance genes, she explained to the survivors, her voice as gentle as a teacher. The root of the microscope can absorb drug soil, and the algae filters the air. Within a week, the oxygen content of the base increased by 20%. A young mother approached, and the child hugged her knees and looked at her. Sister Xuefen, can you? Are there vegetables? The child loves to eat. Xuefen smiled and passed a tube of strain. Okay, this strain transforms waste materials into fertilizer, and the garden starts from here. Sun Yu, the interface data shows that the storm is deviated. Your trauma works. Sun Yu pointed his head, and his heart felt warm. Her passion is my power. Responsibility is no longer a burden. Li Chang's training ground was open on the main floor. He grabbed the modified electromagnetic gun and showed his sight. With a bang, the target burst into sparks, and the smell of smoke was pungent. Everyone let me stand up. He roared, his eyes under the scars swept over the crowd. Several newcomers of Lao Wang held tight weapons, and his hands were shaking like leaves. The machine is not a wild beast, but an iron lump. Looking at the juncture, Sun Yu's black entry marks the weakness. Not good practice. Who is coming to protect his family? A boy tried to ejaculate, his head tilted. Li Chan approached and patted him on the shoulder. Boy, stay calm. Imagine that it is a monster that eats your food. During the training, the conflict broke out. Two men were fighting for guns, and the grudges became more and more serious. Why did Li Chan take more drugs? Li Chan was not angry and threw the gun to them. Practice and win me. Each one was triggered. The team is not snatching, but rescue each other. Sun Yu passed by, joined the demonstration, and went into the target, making it live. The red light was in vain. Everyone started to practice, and laughter replaced the conflict. Base upgrade is like a picture book. Sun Yu integrates everything. Interfaces are integrated with ecological wheels, monitoring plant growth, synchronous training of guns, marking virtual enemies, defense network expansion. Blue barrier covers the entire week. Sentry unmanned planes buzzing. The strategic plan is open during the meeting. Teams are surrounded by tables, and maps are projected with green light flashes. The head is in the data tower. Sun Yu pointed to the red point, and his voice was as steady as a rock. If the turmoil is only for a moment, it will be reorganized. Our reaction will rise from the base, the ecological cargo industry, train the team's firepower, and prevent the invasion of the internet. Howard pointed, the plant is built, and the green-blue map can be doubled. Xuefan supplemented, the first batch of plants emerges, purifying the winds. Li Chang grinned, I trained the Iron Army and exploded the CPU. But moral dilemma is like a shadow. Late at night, Sun Yu sat alone in the monitoring room with a low interface, and burst out the internet-wide preparation options, a key to destroying the army, but it will affect the innocent human signals, the city's edge and the survivor's place of operation. Asterisk if you use it, you will become a tyrant. Asterisk he was hesitant, his fingers were empty, and his sweat slipped. Growth and turn like electric light, from the impulse of power to the shackle of responsibility. He chose to delete the options, and turned to optimize the local blackmail, and his inner self was deeply, asterisk this is my boundary. Protecting humans is not to destroy everything. The team taught me that human nature is in the system. Asterisk the sense of responsibility deepened. He stood up and walked out of the roof. The moonlight like light illuminated the plant seedlings, green like hope to surround the heart. The second pleasure point is like thunder. Police, large invasion. Monitoring shows that the heavy machine group broke through the turbulent area, 10 tank-like crushing ruins, muzzles flashed, and red light locked base. The ground was shaking, the steel wall was buzzing, and the survivors were amazed. Sun Yu pulled to the console and the interface was fully opened, anti-network is activated. The blue barrier was extended, the sentry was unmanned, and the laser was connected to form a network. Li Chang's team opened fire, and the training results exploded. The electromagnetic bullet was like rain, hitting the China relationship, and the machine stumbled and mourned. Howard activates the algae and sprays out, corrodes invaders' armor, and green smoke raises the acid. Xuefan shouted, plant oxygen increases pressure, the barrier is stable. Sun Yu blackened the tank, analyzed the weaknesses and wrote the gun barrel to let it explode rush. The fireballs swept into the sky, and the continuous reaction was closed. The invading group collapsed, the fragments smashed the wall and scattered, and the heat waves disappeared. The base is stable and whispers like a tide. Sun Yu panted and looked at the team. Howard patted him on the back, brother Sun, your network helps. Xuefan smiled, the plant and interface are perfectly combined. Li Chang laughed, the invasion has been invaded, and the counterattack has arrived. Lao Wang and others gathered, their eyes still turned to admiration. Sun Yu clenched his fists and felt confident in his heart, asterisk this is our base, the starting point of the green. Head, wait. Asterisk the outside storm growled, but the defense network buzzed continuously, and the strategic plan was converted into an attack blueprint. Within 3 days, gather firepower and directly take the data tower. The team's pace rose, the prepared drum beats, and the civilized counterattacks were stored here. Green seedlings sway in the flock, symbolizing rebirth, and in the shadow of the doomsday, their fire has become a flame. The blue barrier that is in danger moves like a heart in the light. The buzzing sound is filled with the fine growth of the new seedlings in the ecological flock, and the fresh earthy smell of algae is filled with the air, covering the hidden burnt breath. Sun Yu stood in front of the console, his fingers tapped the map projection, and the red marking data tower was like a demon's eye, and the signal was getting stronger and stronger. The energy bars of the base are stable at 60%, and the training team has taken shape. Lao Wang and his men's hands holding guns no longer shake, but Sun Yu knew that guarding is a dead end. The tide of the machine army is gathering, and the commands of the leader are like internet retracting. He took a deep breath and turned to the team. Go out. Breaking into the middle, start from the supplementary station. Howren, you stay far away and upgrade our logistics. Li Chang, firepower opens. Xuefan, monitors the ecological environment, the green can't stop. Howren pointed his head, his body was slammed in front of the project table, and his hand was covered with oily tools. Brother Sun, don't worry. The climate module of the upgraded radiator suit is connected to the base network. I'm going to adjust the stage from the green fog, and I'll spray the wall. You bring the blue pictures to the station, and I'll leave the old satellites to the dead, giving you the real way. His eyes were flashing, as if he was finally moving from repair to attack. Li Chang swung the electromagnetic step gun, the scar was stretched, and he grinned. Boy, head. I'll wait for this moment, wait for the warehouse of those iron cans to explode. Xuefan held the data tablet, shaking his tail, and his voice was gentle and firm. The ecological stability is 80%, and the little maze is good. But the radiation in the war zone is high. I'll monitor your data of the clothes, there are changes, so I'll report it back soon. Sun Yu, our rejuvenation begins with destroying their life roots. The 4 team members, Sun Yu, Li Chang, Xuefan, and 2 well-trained survivor teams, were wearing upgraded radiator suits. The silver-gray material now covers a thick alloy layer. The climate module is buzzing like a second breath. The air inside the mask is clear and the filter is green. The steel doors are sliding open, the hot waves are slid in green, and the ruins world opens bloody mouths. The walls are broken and the walls are like giant skeletons. The storm growls and shocks the earth, and the red lights are surging away like tides. Sun Yu stepped out the first step, his boots crunched on the gravel, and the interface blue light spreads in the brain, scanning the path. A 3-kilometer war zone, dense patrol logic, and the supplementary station is hidden beside the data tower, filling the energy core in parts. Go straight to the left wing tunnel, he murmured, touching the nearby slaughter, summoning 3 walkers to protect, robotic arms dancing in front, and lasers sweep green. Crossing a war zone is like stepping on the tip of a knife. The green fog is as dense as a living creature's legs, and the radiation meter is red and flashed, high risk. The storm cloud layer is low, the explosion like thunderbolt is ripped off, and the pungent smell of ozone is spread in the air. Behind Li Chang's palace, the gun was locked in the shadows. Brother Sun, front patrol team. 8 light-shaped, disc swiped. Sun Yu's vision fusion was started, and he could see clearly through the red outside of the machine. The machine was like a wolf pack, red eyes flashed, and laser preheated heat and waves to storm the air. Their buzzing birds approached, their footsteps shaking the ground, and gravel fell like rain. The team flicked into the sidewalk, with the back against the moistened cooler wall, and the heartbeat was like a drum. Howren, are you sure about the road? Sun Yu roared in a low voice, and Howren's voice came from the base, and a spark of a welded gun was scattered. Confirm. Turn left 50 meters to avoid the lightning area. I'll get into a skull farther and send you a picture. The screen changed, and there was an extra green code in Sun Yu's brain. The patrol team's weakness mark, the core is in the abdominal circuit. The pleasure is as if the current is swaying. He takes a deep breath and his mind is as if the internet is spreading, the first time integrating a multi-machine system. Not only did it get into 1 or 2, but it locked up 8 of the entire patrol team, codes flooded, and the firewall cracked like paper. The interface was in a heated state, and he felt the rush of power, like holding the thunder. Rewrite the command and turn to the enemy. The machine froze, the red light turned, and then the buzzed bird fell off, and it rushed towards the data tower, colliding and hitting the laser. The explosion fireball teared the green fog, the 4 pieces of debris were like smoke, and the sob metal twisted and revolved into the war zone. "It's done!" Li Chang growled, and was so excited that he slapped the gun. "Brother Sun, you have turned them into ghosts. The road is open." Xuefen's flat panel flash, ecologic monitoring, the slab layer hit 30% of the swelling. "But green spores are growing, Howren, add a fog wall." Howren responded, "It's sprayed." The algae spreads, and the air in the war zone is purifying. The team pulled out, and the boots stepped on the heat and burned bones, the burnt smell stole in the nose, and the military atmosphere was ignited like fire. Sun Yu's chest was filled with blood. The fear of surviving from the past retreated, and replaced by the active flame. No longer hide, we must be excited. Destroy their complements and cut off the back path. But the war zone climaxes one after another. After 2 kilometers deep, the storm eyes approached, the green clouds were like huge waves rolling, and the meter jumped wildly, extreme warning. Suddenly, the side wing exploded, ambush. 10 medium-sized machines emerged from the ruins, armor crawled over the cables, and the muzzle was bent. The first laser rubbed over Xuefen's shoulders, burning the scorched layer, and licking it like a flame. She hummed and fell to the ground, and the tablet fell. The seed was cracked, and the spores were pouring in. The green fog took advantage of the situation and burned her legs. The data showed that the exposure risk was 50%. Li Chang opened fire on the fire, and the electromagnetic bullets were connected, hitting the leg of a machine. Sparks exploded, but more red lights locked Xuefen. "Don't die, encircle it. Brother Sun, save her." Crisis is like flash, and Sun Yu's heart sinks to the bottom of the valley. The team members screamed like a knife, and he felt the extreme pull. The interface energy radius dropped, the hindrance of the multi-machine fused, the current in the brain was like a sting, and the field blurred into a green vortex. You can't let her fall down, this is our hope. Inner self-indulgence is short and profound. From survival instinct to active rejuvenation and reversal, he no longer retreats, grits his teeth and opens his mind, breaks through the limit. The blue light is like an explosion flash, the new module unblocks, crisis link. He not only went into the ambush, but also a climate module connecting the team's uniforms. Howren's remote support came in simultaneously, and the energy diversion was like a river gathering. The code is crazy, rewrite the core of 5 headers, allowing them to turn to the protection mode. The robotic arm extends out to push the laser cannon reflects back to the enemy group, the explosion rings are like thunderbolts, and the flames tear the green fog through the sky. "Howren, the fog wall is open." Sun Yu roared, and Howren's voice was urgent, "Received." Algae spray, rotting them armor. Green smoke rose to the soreness, the ambush was twisted, and the fog melted like a ball. Li Chang took advantage of the rush and fired into the fire. "Brother Sun, it's amazing. I'll clear my tail." He burst out 2 approaching machines, and the fragments hit the ground and covered Sun Yu and rushed to Xuefen's body. Sun Yu knelt down, and the interface penetrated into her garment crack, reprinted the circulation system, and the algae fog stormed out of the module, sealed the wound, and the heat retreated. Xuefen gasped and stood up, grabbed the tablet. "Thank you. Thank you." The data became stable, the ecological monitoring continued, the supplementary station was closer, and the energy core was strong. Her eyes flashed behind the mask, and the relationship was tighter like an iron. Growth is like the current restarting. Sun Yu stood up, and his brain was much more refreshing. The ultimate breakthrough is not to destroy oneself, but to use the power of the team, Howren's project, Li Chang's firepower, and Xuefen's monitoring, which are transformed into his extension. Rejuvenation is not to bear it alone, but to regain the Earth. The team reorganized and continued to advance, the buzz in the war zone turned into chaos, and the patrol team's internal struggle was still in chaos. The entrance to the station is in sight, a half-destroyed warehouse, red light flashing, door guarding like an iron wall, energy cores inside are like mountains, and buzzing the power supply army. Howren shouted far and wide, Brother Sun, the weakness is in the backdoor circuit. I'm blacked into the satellite, and the mark is marked explode the core, and the lock is locked. Li Chang's head slammed, and the gun was hot, open the road. The electromagnetic bullet guarded the shaking, sparks were 4 times, and the metal was wailing. The second refreshing point is like a tide, the Sun Yu interface is fully opened, integrating the remaining patrol team signals. The consciousness is like an arrow shooting into the warehouse system, and rewrite the power supply command load it. The core is shining too much, the storm is huge, the explosion of fireballs swallows no warehouse, the locks react like domino, the energy tube bursts, the fragments penetrate the sky like rain, and the red light is extinguished like a tide. The replenishment station is turned into a sea of fire, the heat waves reversely push the green fog, the machine army storm is weak, and a low-roaring warning is transmitted in the direction of the data tower. Weakened. The leader's network has been cut halfway. Xuefan said excitedly, and the tablet showed that the enemy force was reduced by 40%. Li Chang laughed loudly and shook his gun on his shoulder. It's great. Brother Sun, this blowout makes the iron jar grow old. Howard yelled in the communication, the base has been received, the energy is revived, your module is stable, the way back is open. The team gasped and gathered. Sun Yu looked at the sea of fire, and the fire in his chest was revived. From the terror of survival to the active strategist, he had already changed. Asterisk the green is waiting, and our reaction has just begun. Asterisk. But the climax has not dissipated. The red tide in the far corner was reorganized, and the data tower was rising again, and a giant shadow was approaching the leader's team. Sun Yu clenched his fist, retreat. The base gathers, next step, and goes straight to the center of the tower. The boots stepped on the retreat path, and the flames reflected the radiant suit in the green fog. The sternness of the adventure was full of bowstrings, the team's steps were fixed, and the flames of the electronic warfare were burning towards the center. The storm roared outside, but their hopes, like the fire that filled the station, are getting stronger and stronger. The green fog was like a huge furious beast, swallowing the walls of the ruins without any ruins. The stormy roar made the ground tremble, as if the earth was preparing for the war that was about to explode. Sun Yu was running, the climate module of the radiator suit was buzzing and the sweat inside the mask condensed into a fog, blurring the vision. The sea of fire that was added to the station was still flashing behind him. The explosion of hot waves pushed open some green fog, but the red tide had already flowed like a tide. The leader's team, elite machines emerged from the shadows like ghosts, tall armor flashed with blue and black light, red eyes scanned the team, and the laser cannon's preheated buzzing was as harsh as nails on the blackboard. Son, there are 10 behind. They are different, the signal is as strong as the extension of the head. Li Chang's voice was rough and rapid through the communication device. Behind his hull, the electromagnetic step gun was connected, and a shrunk shoulder armor hit the head, and the spark exploded and only scratched the marks. The machine shook, and the mechanical arm blew the electromagnetic whip, whipping Li Chang's legs. The hot current blew the air and the burnt smell sucked the nose. Li Chang rolled down and cursed, "Don't die, the shielding layer is thick." Xuefan, where's your monitoring? Xuefan gasped and followed. The data plate was stuck under her arm, and the green light reflected the tail. The peak radiation breaks the surface, and the density of green spores doubles. The mattress cannot be held back. Howren, the far end is pressed. Her voice carried the eagerness of scientists, and ran around to check the life phenomena of the team. Howren responded from the base, and the sparks of the soundtrack of the welded gun had it. The algae fog wall is spreading, but you are storming around the storm eyes, and the signal is interfering heavily. Sun Yu, what's your interface? The leader is countering. Sun Yu gritted his teeth and rushed forward, his boots crunched on the gravel, and his heart beat like thunder. The blue light interface moves in the brain, but this time it's different. A powerful impulse is like a iron smashing, and the code flows in time, as if it's being pinched by an invisible hand. Asterisk head leader, is it hacking me? Asterisk he tried to stretch his mind, lock the latest vision, and the vision fusion started, but the picture was twisted into a red-green vortex, and the feedback current was like a prick of the brain, and the energy bar dropped by 30%. I'm fucking. Sun Yu growled, leaned against the wall, licked the clothes with a green fog, and counted the red flash of the machine, 40% of the exposure risk. Their signal encryption has been upgraded, my black card shell, the team, scattered. Crisis is like a flash explosion. The team surrounded them, in the core of the radiation area a collapsed square. The surrounding ruins were like prisons, with green fog so dense that the view was only 10 meters away. The laser beam swept, the heat wave burned the air, a whip sucked Xuefen's flat plate, sparks filled with sparks, she screamed and fell to the ground, ah. The data, exposed, spores swelled up their legs. The green fog took advantage of the situation, burning like a fire gnawing on her skin, and the life elephant fell. Li Chang covered his slight cover and the gun was like rain. Sun Yu, stay on top. I can't hold it for long. But a sludge rose, and the electromagnetic whip blew on his gun, and the heat current blew his body. He knelt on the ground with a humming and a twisted face under the scar. Don't die. The electric swelled his legs. Howren's communication was urgent. Sungo, the base monitor has detected. The headline system is anti-blacking your interface, which is like a virus. Try to stop and restart. Sun Yu knelt on the gravel, and the pain in his brain was as painful as thousands of times. The interface popped up with a warning, the encryption layer penetrated, and the backlash risk was 60%. Asterisk failed, my gold finger, which is not vicious, is played with by it. Asterisk fear and self-responsibility came like a tide. He watched the team slam. Xuefen curled up and gasped. Li Chang half-kneeled and opened the fire. The two survivors had been injured by laser, and they were screaming in green. Since then, he always wanted to turn around alone and prove that he was a savior, but now, this self-doubt almost destroyed everything. The inner self is as unrestrained as thunderous. Asterisk it is not a hero show, it is the fate of the team. My limit is not ending, but leveraging. Reflect, grow, get up from failure. Asterisk. Turning around like an electric light flashes. Sun Yu took a deep breath, cut off the main interface, retreated to the auxiliary module, and used only the weak points to analyze the scanning core. The screen is stable, the weak point of the subsystem is in the communication section. Although the first leader is strong, the extension signal has a delay. Howren, remote support. Divide energy to me and rewrite my alloy ring. Howren responded to the flying fast, received. Weld the circuit, and the energy is drawn from the base. Stay stable. The sparks rose in the communication, and Sun Yu felt the warm current flowing in from the ring. The interface was restarted, and the new module was unblocked. Reverse link. The temporary upgrade is like a fire ignition. He no longer blackens the head main body, but instead diamonds it in the subsystem in reverse, and the code is like going upstream, locking the communication center of the traffic. The first pleasure point was shocking. When Sun Yu thought, his mind was like a clutch pulling, and the subsystem collapsed. The team froze, red eyes flashed, and the laser cannon turned to his companion, the buzzing giant, killing itself like a rabies bite. The explosion of fireballs swelled into the sky, and the debris smashed the square like rain. The hot waves tear the green, and the metal morning birds blew into the radius area. The leader's attack continued to be scattered, and the superior attack turned into internal struggles, and the red light disappeared like a tide. It's gone. Their network is shut down. Sun Yu yelled, his voice certainly unparalleled, his energy rises, and his brain is refreshing as if he is reborn. The team acted instantly, and cooperated like a choke. Howren shouted farther, brother Sun, the equipment is being repaired. Your shoulder crack is cracked, I activate the module from the distance, and the alloy wire is automatically welded. Sun Yu felt the shoulders flowing, the cracks creaked, the slabs are reborn, and the radiation warning is downgraded. Li Chang tugged up, shook off the numbness, grabbed the gun and laughed, boy, fucked beautifully. My legs are well, cover it up. He led the two newcomers to strike, and the electromagnetic bullets were swept away, sparking 4 times, bursting out 2 elite machines in chaos, and the fragments hit the ground and swayed the hot face. Come on! A gap has been opened at the edge of the square. Xuefeng climbed up with pain, and the green fog burned her legs, and the skin was red and burned like fire, but she gritted her teeth and grabbed the seed box and took out the purified strain capsule from it. Sun Yu, hold it. This strain is anti-spores and neutralizes toxicity. She tore open the capsule, and the green fog was covered with wounds, and her mind was like nectar entering. The burning heat faded away, and the life was stable. She sent Li Chang a message, "You are too bad, and the symptoms will be relieved after the electrocution." Li Chang took it and shouted at the edge of the slut, "Sister Xuefeng, magic medicine. Newcomer, protect her 2 wings." Xuefeng's eyes lit up behind the mask. The data shows that the strain can optimize your clothes, the blessing of the slut layer, and the green fog will be dissipated by 20%. Sun Yu, this is our green power. Sun Yu pointed his head, and his chest was filled with blood. He no longer indulged himself in his own way, but pointed out, "Li Chang, the right wing fights back. Howren monitors the enemy's impulse." Qin Chang turned the whole story. The pain of failure made him, from his own leader to the backbone bridge. He learned to use the power of the team, and his responsibility was like a torch. Asterisk, it's not me who saved them, it's us who saved each other. Before the battle, this is a trial. Asterisk. The second refreshing point is like a tide. During the climax crisis, they fought against elite machines. Sun Yu reversed the chain and connected the subsystem to the remnant system, allowing 3 soldiers to turn into allies, the robotic arms to dance with lasers, and the laser cannons toward the enemy group. Li Chang's firepower was like thunder. His gun locked the weak point, and an elite was bursting into the sky. The newcomer followed, and the training results exploded, and another knelt on the ground to mourn. Howren adjusts remotely. The energy is stable. The retreat path is clear, and the wind is stormy. Xuefeng's strain scattered, and the green slug collapsed when acid was reduced, and the opening of the square was widened. The team suddenly surrounded. The boots were overheated and burned. The burnt smell mixed with the fragrance of green, and the atmosphere was like fire. Escape. Those elites have turned into smoke. Li Chang laughed loudly, patted Sun Yu's shoulder, and made the cousin shake. The newcomer gasped and shouted, "Brother Sun, you are our trump card." Xuefeng smiled. The cooperation has been won, and the green is approaching. Howren yelled in the communication, "Back to the base. The leader has weakened by 50%, and the time for the battle has arrived." Sun Yu headed towards the blue barrier. The brain interface was low, and the reverse link lasted forever. He looked at the back of the team, and his heart was as bright as a steel. Asterisk failed to teach me, growth is sharing. Head, wait, we are here. Asterisk after the radiation area, the ruins are hidden and light is shining, and the tightness on the eve of the battle is full of bowstrings. The far data tower is red light flashing, but the team steps are fixed, and the flames of the electronic warfare will burn towards the core. The stone roared outside, the green fog disappeared, their fire became stronger and stronger, and the reversal of civilization was waiting to be developed. The blue barrier that is avoided is like a war drum. The buzzing sound is filled with the fine growth of the fresh seedlings of the ecological seedlings, and the fragrance of algae in the air is dense, covering up the hidden burnt smell. Sun Yu pushed open the steel door, and the team dragged his tired body into it, and the scorched marks on the radiant suit were like a flash of seals. The green fog burning heat still remained on the skin, but his brain interface was low and stable, and the reverse linkage module was like a new life fighting, which made him feel the extension of his strength. The survivors came up, the children's eyes stared at them brightly, and the old man murmured and prayed. The strain capsules in the resource box are still emitting a little light, symbolizing their hopes that they just regained their death side. Brother Sun, you are back. Howren pulled out of the engineering station, and he patted Sun Yu's shoulder with his hands full of oil, staring at the new mattress on the costume, the team's electromagnetic whip. You should die, look at this mark. But your module is stable, and I showed that the green spores have disappeared 30%. The base energy is full. The training team has gathered. Lao Wang in his hands holding the gun are as stable as iron. Li Chang shook off the electromagnetic gun, and the face under the scar is covered with beads of sweat. He grinned and his voice was as thick as a sandpaper. Boy, that wave of retaliation just now. The first net was halfway through, it is now blind. Shuefen, your strain saved my legs, and now he is walking like flying. Shuefen gasped and took off her cover. Her tail was scattered, and the red collar on her legs had retreated. She hugged the data tablet, and her gentle voice was ashamed of fatigue. The ecological module has been moving smoothly. The little girl has grown by 2 centimeters, and the purification of the air has brought the oxygen content at the base to 90%. But the data in the war zone shows that the thrust of the data tower is in the reorganization. The leader is convening the slaughter army. We don't have much time. Sun Yu pointed at the head, wiped off the sweat from the large number of sweat, and wiped the crowd through the eyes. Since then, he was the technician hiding behind, always sensational. Now, the team's eyes are like torches, illuminating his determination. Asterisk not about survival, this is rejuvenation. I am the guardian. Asterisk. The meeting room lights are dim and yellow, the map project's green light flashes, and the red markings are like the heart of the demon. The sound of Sun Yu Station is as steady as a rock. Total attack, now. Collect resources. The first batch of food distribution produced by the ecological carton. The energy core is charged from the slaughter that is replenished from the station's fire. Howren, your deployment base support. The remote black into the tower, the fog wall is fully opened, and the algae rot invades the path. Li Chang, strike the front line and train the firepower pressure of the team. Shuefen, ensure that the biotech module connects our clothes, and the strains are actually cleaned up the war zone. I go deep into the core, and the electronic warfare is determined. The crowd was pointed, and Lao Wang clenched his fists. Sun Yu, we will follow us. I was so tired before, but now I am in my hands and protect my family to the end. Preparation is like a storm. Howren flying fast soldered the last alloy ring, sparks flying in hot waves. Sun, this ring is connected to the base network, and the energy diversion is infinite. Your interface will not be loaded again. Shuefen injected the strain capsule into the clothing module, and the green glue penetrates the slab like a living thing, making it feel refreshed. All over the body, the module is optimized, and the green fog comes in neutral. Data shows that there is an internal machine network inside the tower, and our reverse link can penetrate. Li Chang's team was in charge, and the electromagnetic bullet banged and cried out, "Boy, see you. I'm going to open my way, you are unscrupulous." The steel doors slide open, the hot waves slid in green fogs, and the ruins world opens bloody mouths. The storm cloud layer is low, and the thunder-like humming comes from the direction of the data tower, and the red light is like a tide. The team had 30 people, the radiant suit was flashing, the climate module was buzzing like a chorus, and the boots crunched on the gravel. Sun Yu head, the interface is blue, scans the path, a 2-kilometer war zone, with dense troops, but after the injection, their slams continue to be like a dying slam. Li Chang opened the way, and the gun was like thunder, scattered. Left wing pressure. The electromagnetic radiation was falling, and the collision of the patrol machine was hit, sparks burst, metal morning and debris smashed the ground and stumbled. Howren's support is like a hidden hand. During the base communication, his voice was rapid, the wall sprays. The algae spreads, the road ahead of the rotten tower. Look, the green smoke rises, the legs of those iron jars are soft. In the green fog, the sour smell spreads, the armor of the slaughter melts, and the steps are stumbled. Li Chang laughed and led the team to a sudden attack. Howren, beautifully fucked. Sungo, the entrance of the tower is close, guarding 20 units, heavy. Shuefen ran to monitor, the module is stable, the oxygen in the war zone of the strain purified the oxygen in the war zone, the team's life is green. But the peak radiation inside the tower, the cow can't stand it for a long time. The data tower stands in the middle of the ruins, like a twisted steel bone, and red light emerges from the cracks, like a heart-wrenching movement. The entrance iron door is covered with spots, guarding machines are like wolves, and laser cannons are preheating and storing air. Sun Yu took a deep breath, his mind was fully opened, and his golden fingers were like a tide analysis of weak points of reverse link fusion, and the blue light flashed into the brain, and the code was like a flood. The first pleasure point was shocking, he locked the machine website inside the tower. Not only is the outer guard, but the core subsystem is expanded like a spider network. The mind is like a diamond piercing, the firewall cracks, and rewrites instructions. The internal machine froze, and the red eyes turned into chaos rebellion. They buzzed their birds and turned toward their companions. Lasers shot each other, robotic arms teared their armor, explosive fireballs blew into the sky, fragments hit the tower like rain, and hot waves teared the green mist. The defense line collapsed like a sand castle collapsed, the morning metal twisted and turned, and the red tide collapsed into a messy skeleton. The ghosts are inside. They are killing each other. Li Chang roared, and the gun took advantage of the pressure, locked the enemy in a slaughter, exploded a heavy machine, sparking 4 times. His team rushed into the tower, his boots stepped on the hot burning fragments, and his burnt nose was sniffed. Brother Sun, the road ahead is open. I'm on the top of the wing. Xuefen's flat panel flash, eco-module feedback, strain fog spreads into the tower, corrode the core circuit. Sun Yu, be careful when you go deep, the leader is locking you. Howard laughed in the message, the base is fully open. The energy is full, your interface is like a super engine, burn it. The channel inside the tower is narrow and deep, the LED lights are constantly flashing, the pungent smell of ozone is spread in the air, and the green fog flows from the crack into the tongue of a poisonous snake. Sun Yu was alone in front of the attack, and the team's firepower covered the back, and he felt the leader's impulse was like a wire smashing his brain, a powerful encrypted layer plug. The code backlash was like current erosion, and the energy bar dropped by 50%. In the core area, a huge core like a black shadow floated in the center, surrounding countless machines. Red light was fighting like blood, and a low-roaring command resounded, "Human, is finally over." His vision was twisted, and the pain in his brain was as painful as thousands of beads. He kneeled down, licking his clothes in the green fog, and burned his nerves. Is this the ultimate confrontation, my limit? No, from survival to protection, I can't fall. The team is waiting, civilization is waiting. Turning around like an electric light flashes. Sun Yu gritted his teeth, and his inner soul changed like fire and was reborn, from the fear of the survivor to the awakening of the guardians of civilization. He cut off the main link, used Howard's remote energy and Xuefen's module feedback to reversely analyze the core weakness of the leader. There is a radiation loophole at the Zhongli node. The consciousness is like an arrow shot out, and the golden fingers are opened. The code is crazy and backfires, locking the stator network, and rewriting the global commands. The first leader is in trouble, the red light flash warning, and the internal machines are completely rebellious. The submachine was buzzing towards the core, the laser cannon gathered fire, the mechanical arm teared the outer shell, the explosion was like a thunderbolt, the fireball swallowed no black shadow, and the heat waves shaking the tower body. The second cool point is like the dawn. Sun Yu stood up, and the interface was moving, the core of the first team collapsed over the heat, the birds were huge, the black shadows shattered into pieces, and the red light was extinguished like a tide. The machine army's severity was stormed, and the entire network was stormed, and the buzzing birds in the distance turned to dead silence. The tower body shook, and the fragments fell like rain, but he calmed down and his mind stretched out to confirm that the threat was over. I did it, not alone, it was us. Civilization is reborn from the ruins. Li Chang rushed in, and the gun was still smoked. Brother Sun. The head of the head exploded, all the iron jars. Xuefen followed, his eyes wet. Data shows that the entire network collapsed. The blue map of the green island is unhindered. Howard yelled in a message, the base is hushing. The energy is stable, the wind is storm, we win. The team gathered and cried in the tower. Sun Yu looked at them, and the blood in his chest broke through the ground like green seedlings. The inner self is short and profound, from hiding to guarding, this is my change. The end of the doomsday, and the new life begins. The storm outside growled weakly, the green fog was a little thinner, the light of the data tower reflected the ruins, and the dawn was as bright as the dawn. Sun Yu clenched his fist, go back to the base and build a green continent. Civilization is waiting for us. The boots stepped on the retreat, the team was determined, and the flames of fire would light up the earth. There is a flash of survivor signals in the distance, and the road to reconstruction is already underway. The door of the shelter slipped open in the blue barrier, and the team's boots stepped on the familiar ground, making a crunch of fatigue. The air is filled with the fresh earthy smell of algae, mixed with the fine growth of the sprouts in the remote room, like the earth resurrected in the low language. Sun Yu took off his cover and the first mouthful of fogless air slipped into his lungs like nectar. He looked at the survivors coming up around the children's smiles were sparse and real, and the old people's eyes turned from absolute hope to depend on them. The red light of the data tower has been destroyed, the core of the head has been broken into pieces, and the buzz of the machine army has turned into dead silence. But victory is not the end, but the starting point of rebirth. Sun Yu took a deep breath, and the blood in his chest broke through the ground like green seedlings. Asterisk from that fearful technician to the current guardian, I have changed all the way. It's not strength, it's the heart. Asterisk. Son, the swelling in the tower is completely broken. Howard pulled out of the engineering desk, and he patted Sun Yu's shoulder with his hands full of oil, his eyes as bright as a light blister. I scanned the distance, and the remaining machine has been half a dozen. The energy core piece can fill us for half a month. But the green is stretched, and the seeds can no longer be stuck. Li Chang shook off his electromagnetic stepping stone, his face under the scar was covered with dust. He grinned and his voice was thick. As sand, boy, the head of the head is blown into smoke, and the electric marks on my legs are still hot. The training team is alive, and now they are gunned, so there is no problem in protecting the family. Xuefan hugged the data plate, and the tail of the horse was scattered in a scattered spirit. The ecological data shows that the storm cloud is retreating, and the strain purifies the surrounding air 40%. But we have a tree wall, otherwise the green fog will reverse, and the base will become an isolated island. Sun Yu pointed at the head and looked at the crowd. The survivors gathered together, and the children pulled the corners of their parents' clothes, their eyes mixed with excitement and fatigue. Previously, this was the terrifying cave, now, it is the fortress of fire. He cleared his throat and his voice was as steady as a rock. Everyone heard that the threat of the machine was resolved, but the end of the world was not over. We used seeds to rebuild the green continent, not to hide, but to regain the land. Howard, lead the engineering team to expand. Xuefan, manage the ecological restoration. Li Chang, train the new defense team. I integrate those destruction the iron lumps make them live. The crowd broke out in the crowd, some clapped their hands, and some pointed their heads, but in the corner, the few old day lovers of Lao Wang's face were dark and they said in a private word, Sun Yu is a hero, but how do you divide resources? When we were hungry, they were the team. Now they won, and they drove us? Reconstruction is in full swing. Howard cleared out behind the main board, and the steel plate hit the sound of the sound, sparks flying and the heat waves were swept. He used alloy tubes of the seed tank to build the frame to protect the bottom of the tank, and shouted, Son, this climate protection system has been upgraded. The old module has a small storm, and now the tree wall is added, and the green fog is slapped. The algae layer is fully covered, the circulation pool is 3 times widened, and it can filter the air in the entire base. Sun Yu passed the circuit board and the interface lightly touched, blue light fused. Howard, add my black into the module, the system automatically adjusts the stage, the radiation is high, sprays the wall, it is low, opens the wind. Howard laughed and wiped off the sweat, it's done. The green forest is silhouetted, and the first forest is covered in the first area, and the roots are cleansed, like the village in my hometown, and the caregiver is born again. Xuefan's ecological flounder was hot. She put on gloves and sprinkled anti-variant trees into the plate, and the green tubes were flashing like stars. The purified algae in the pool was green, and the faint fragrance of seaweed was filled with air. The children looked closer and their eyes were bright. Look, this tree has strong roots and can absorb drugs, Xuefan explained the viewing mother, and her voice was gentle as spring. Small wheat and crop wheels have grown 50 people in one go. The strains are sprinkled around to prevent spores from erosion. Sun Yu, your data can be very helpful. Interface prediction. The length of the seedlings doubled. A mother held the child and squatted down and touched the green buds. Sister Xuefan, the flowers in the city were difficult in the past, but now, can we eat new dishes? Xuefan smiled and passed a tube of strain. Yes, this is our Greenland, starting with the seedlings. Li Chang was practicing the new anti-station team at the training ground, with the electromagnetic bullet slamming and the smell of smoke. He grabbed the gun, the scar was stretched, and shouted, "Stand straight." The machine was gone, but the wilderness and the wind were still there. Aiming at the weak point, Sun Yu's black enrollment mark isn't good practice. Who will protect Greenland? Several newcomers of Lao Wang held the gun's hands and chatted. Brother Li Chang, Sun Yu's golden fingers are simple and magical. But resources, we also want to divide more soil and make our own dishes. Li Chang shook the gun, his voice was rough. Boy, Greenland is everyone's, and it is a dead end, and cooperation is home. Sun Yu has proved that he believes in him. Sun Yu was not idle. He retreated to the monitoring room alone, and the blue light interface spread like a tide, and his mind stretched to capture the surrounding signal. In the ruins, the stone machines were scattered like piles of irons, and the red light had already shrunk, but the core circuit was still moving. No waste, they were once enemies, but now they are power. The first pleasure point is like current sucking. He took a deep breath, locked the dead body of a bunch of pedestrians recently, and rewrite the instructions, turn it into a moving mode. The interface is hot, and Sun Yu feels the storm of power, like holding an invisible whip. The mechanical arm buzzes and starts, drags the alloy plate to climb to the base, the unmanned machine plate swirls green, and the steel sheets cut the steel material like cutting vegetables. 10 or 20, the remaining machines are like a listening herd, gathering the edges of the base, speeding up the expansion. Howard was stunned and patted Sun Yu's shoulder. Brother Sun, magical skills. These iron cows are rushing to live, we will be 1 month a day. The green wall is raised, and the trees are dug. Expand the scroll. The machine force opened in the road, the mechanical arm swept the soil, and in the humming sound, the trees of the seeds were scattered into the trough, and the green buds broke through the soil. Howard's engineering system is complete, the climate protection cover is expanded like a silver dome, the buzzer guards the new forest, the algae fog wall is circling, and the green fog retreats as if it is encountered. Xuefan leads the survivors to play the game, laughter replaces the rustic words, the children chase the machine and shout, "Uncle Iron, dig a hole." Li Chang's defense team patrols the logic, the guns are swept with wild beasts, and the eyes under the scars are full of pride. But internal conflicts emerged like shadows. The old complaints about resource allocation emerged. Lao Wang and several others were fighting against each other on the edge of the ecology, pushing the dividing pot. Sun Yu's team took the tree first. When do we have a stomachache? Who is green? The crowd was furious, some agreed, and some strife. Sun Yu heard the sound of the sound, his heart was as deep as a pen. I have one, but some people still doubt it. This is the scar of human nature. He stepped forward and his voice was calm and sounded, "Stop. Lao Wang, you are right. In the past, I was the team to survive. But now, Greenland is everyone's home, not my fortress." Lao Wang glared and said with a rough voice, "Sun Yu, you are a golden finger, but what about us? Why do you have more people when dividing the soil?" Sun Yu took a deep breath, touched the flat panels on the interface, projecting the green-blue picture. Forest walls, fields are divided into pieces, and trees are cleaned. Look, this piece gives you anti-radiation vegetables, each family one. Machinery force digging holes, Xuefan teaching, Li Chang's guard. But the condition is cooperation, get out of the situation and help the team. He turned to the crowd, his eyes like a torch. From the day of rebellion, I was a technician, afraid of death and hiding behind. When opening a seed bank, I was afraid of losing the team. When I hit the head, I was afraid of losing control and destroying everything. But you, Howard's welding gun, Xuefan's green buds, Li Chang's gunfire, your sweat, make me a leader. Green, it's not me who built it, it's us. Lao Wang was stunned, his face turned red, and he clenched his fists and said, "Sun Yu. I'm sorry. I used to be hungry, but now I'm digging a hole." The crowd was silent, and immediately clapped his hands. The conflict was resolved like a scattered fog, and the leadership position was as solid as a rock. Sun Yu's heart turns like an electric light, asterisk from proof of himself and to join the group to help everyone. This is true growth. Power is sharing, human nature is trusting. Asterisk. The second cool point is like the dawn. A week later, the Greenland was first formed. Outside the base, the new forest has green buds, the roots of the tree seedlings spread like a net, and the soil is scattered with fragrance. In the fields, small seedlings are swaying, the algae pond is green, and the air is as fresh as the mountains and forests after rain. The climate protection cover is humming, holding the green fog, the machine's force patrols the logic, and the steel sheets are turned into tillage tools. The survivors were walking in the forest, and the children were chasing butterflies and were uninhabited. Mother picked the first batch of leaves, laughing like a bell. "Sun Yu, this dish is crispy. It's more fragrant than energy bars." Lao Wang carried the earthen basin and grinned to Sun Yu, "Boy, Green Zhou family. Thank you." Li Chan came back on patrol and shot his shoulders. "The defense team is stable," and the wild beasts said. "Howren, the system cow." Howren wiped his sweat and laughed. "Sun Yu's power network, divine help." Xuefan hugged a bunch of green seedlings. His eyes were wet. "The ecology is balanced, and the growth rate is 100%. Sun Yu, our rebirth." Sun Yu stood beside the forest, looking at the green forest, and his emotions were gushing. "My heart is solo," asterisk recalling that night of rebellion. "I am afraid that I will be like a green fog. When I wake up my golden finger, I think it is a savior and I will be responsible for learning. The laughter of the team and the pain of crisis have made me." It is not a refreshing victory, it is this hope that will make me become a guardian from a survivor. Civilization is not the end, it is the rebirth. Asterisk he turned around and patted Howren's shoulder. "Continue to expand, there is a signal of survivors around the city, and the green will connect." The team pointed its head, its steps rose, and the reconstruction rhythm was like a heartbeat. The storm of clouds dissipated, green spread to the ruins, and their homes became green in the cracks of the doomsday. The edges of the green, the forest walls have begun to take shape. The branches and leaves that resist the changes spread like green barriers, and the roots are deeply rooted into the ground that once radiated poisonous soil, releasing the fragrance of the soil and scattering the clear smell of water in the algae pond. Sun Yu stood on the high platform and looked down at this fresh earth. The sun shone through the thin cloud layer, no longer a green shadow, but a warm embrace. The base is now expanded into a village. Outside the steel wall is a twig of fields, the little maize seedlings are swaying like golden waves, and the children are chasing toys made of unmanned bodies in the forest, and their laughter is as crisp as a rock. The core chamber of the seed bank was moving, and the green tubes kept spitting out new species. The absurdity in the radiation area turned into fertile black soil, and the roar of the wild beasts also retreated, leaving only the fine shattering of the wind blowing leaves. "Brother Sun, look at this field. It was still dusty a week ago, but now the little McGrath is taller than my knees." Howren climbed up from the ridge of the field, his weak body was covered with mud. He wiped off the sweat from his head, grinning like a big boy, and the tools in his hand were holding a newly welded irrigation tube. The climate protection cover has been twice as widened, and the algae circulates the water and soil to sanitize itself. Those machines are operating quickly. I upgraded their servo arms and now digging like cutting tofu. Greenland is not only home, it is a city. Sun Yu pointed at the head, the blue light interface moved lightly in the brain, no longer the fighting current, but the gentle blue wave, as familiar as old friends. He stretched out his mind and gently touched a walker's skeleton. The iron-buzzed horns were activated, the mechanical arms stretched out, and the strain capsules were sprouted accurately. The green spores disappeared like a heavenly enemy. "Howren, your hand art allows them to turn from killing hands into farmers. This is our transformation." Since then, the gold finger is the sharp blade in the doomsday, far away from the black to resolve the crisis, Now, it has evolved. New module for interface pop-up, peaceful heavy structure. Sun Yu tried to connect the surrounding networks, no longer rewriting the decompression instructions, but optimized the circulation. The machine force and ecological flow are synchronized, the soil pH is automatically monitored, and the water volume is adjusted. The unmanned machine is swiveling in patrols, scanning different plants, and the labeling is possible. The refreshing feeling is like a warm current, not a blast of battle, but a joy created. The edge of the radiation area, a wasteland, suddenly turns green, force digging, under the seeds, blue light projecting the blue map, predicting the growth of the long zodiac. Global reconstruction. Starting from here, the interface captures the survivor signal around the city. He made a light thought and issued a coordinated impulse to allow remote areas to share seed data. Sun Yu, this module, is simply a magical tool. Xuefan walked from the algae pond, and the tail was shaking in the sun. She was holding a cluster of new buds in her hands, her eyes were filled with the enthusiasm of scientists, and her face was already invincible. She replaced it with healthy redness. The seed database is fully operational. The genetic database connects your interface and can predict global climate changes. Look, this resistant tree has not only purified the soil, but also radiated oxygen networks, and the radiation area is turning to the fields. It only takes half a year. The machine is threatening, and those bones are now our ox, and technology has changed from double-blade zombies to plow. She squatted down, inserted the buds into the soil, and the green glue in, and the soil moves slightly like a living creature. Xuefan's electricity changed, from a monitor during the war to a preemptive act. Her hands no longer trembled, and her eyes were as bright as a green island. Li Chang returned from the forest wall patrol, and his electromagnetic step gun was swung over his shoulder, and the scar was stretched out under the sun. He was no longer a rough warrior, but a defensive force, with a gentle voice. Boy, the edge is clean. The wilderness roamed, and the green fog retreated 10 kilometers away. Lao Wang and his defensive team train the Iron Army. I am still chatting about family matters while patrolling, whose food is growing fast. Sun Yu, your power network has allowed us to move from war to home. My gun has been hot for half a year and finally I can rest. He patted his chest and laughed like thunder. I just wanted to explode the head of the machine since before. Now? It's much more exciting to maintain this green. Sun Yu looked at them, a warm current burst into his chest. The team gathered, and the survivors from the high platform surrounded the circle. Children sat on the ground with their knees in their arms, and adults carried the first batch of freshly cooked rice porridge, which was hot and fragrant, and the nose was like a long-standing family dinner. The joy of success begins here, not the crazy smoke, but the collective glory. Howard put up the irrigation pipe and shouted like a cup, cheer the cup for Greenland. From the day of the rebellion, we hid in the cave, now, this is our city. Sung those golden fingers, from the black machine to the Jinjia, awesome. The crowd laughed, some clapped their hands, and some ate porridge. Xuefan answered, and his voice softly, my electrician changes from scientists in radiant suits to green mothers. This piece of soil not only survives, but hope. The tacit understanding of the team has made the ethics take root from the ruins. Li Chang laughed loudly, his eyes under the scars flashed. I have grown from soldiers to old age, gunfire protectors, and now I watch the children run through the forest, which is more exciting than the head-on. Sun Yu, you lead us up from the dust and shine together, and we are all ours. Sun Yu took a bowl of porridge, and the heat blurred the visual line. He swallowed the first sip and the aroma of the rice slipped into his throat, as sweet as a sharp spike. Howren, your project makes the green continent stable. Xuefan, your green buds make hope live. Li Chang, your firepower makes us unstoppable. But this is not my personal story. He turned to the crowd, and Lao Wang's several old-day affairs were approaching, and his eyes were no longer resentful. From the end of the survivor to civilization first, I changed. At first, the golden finger was a weapon of fear. I was afraid of losing control and destroying human nature. When I hit the head, I learned to reconcile and borrow your power to win. Technology is a double-bladed sword. AI rebelled and destroyed the world, but we rebuilt it with it. Greenland is not the end, it is the beginning, to expand to cities, to the place where the survivors are built, and the blue pictures of seeds share the world. Human nature, here not only to live, but to rebirth. My heart was as if I was breeze. Looking back on the night when the police report came up, I was afraid it would be like a green fog. I was an ordinary technician, hiding behind the steel wall. When I woke up the interface, I thought it was a magic weapon from heaven, but it was changed in crisis. I learned to trust the team and knew how to put people first. From a self-developed hero to a pre-driven guard, this growth is not a refreshing reversal, but a rush of every step. Doomsday Church, civilization is in the balance between human nature and technology. Son, you held a tight bowl, and his blood was as hot as the roots of a green island, deep into the earth. The prayer continued until dusk, the fire was on, and the orange light shone on the forest wall. The children sang a song written by themselves. Uncle Iron digs the soil, green buds grow tall. Uncle Sun's black light, the home is not afraid of wind. Howren and Lee Chang competed in the old war story, and their laughter was filled with vague feelings. Remember the ambush at the bottom of the pit? When Brother Lu thought, the machine exploded like a self-destruction. Smoke! Xuefan passed the new sprout crown and put on Sun Yu's head. The crown is the symbol of reconstruction. Sun Yu smiled and shared his wishes. Tomorrow, we will send troops to the east to run, bring seeds and blue pictures. Global networks are no longer lonely islands. Greenlands are stretched, civilization is revived, from ruins to forests, from hiding to prosperity. As night falls, the stars fill the green island, the wind blows like a low voice, and the buzz of the machine force turns into a vigil rhythm. Sun Yu was standing alone in the forest, watching the seedlings sway, and the backs of the teen were stretched in the fire. Hope is like a seed, it has been buried deep in my heart and bloomed with fruits. Civilization is no longer an old dream, but a new reality.